We do not train to be merciful here. Mercy is for the weak. Here, in the streets, in the Neon Crew podcast, a man confronts you, he is the enemy. An enemy deserves no mercy. No mercy!
Strike hard, strike fast, no mercy, sir.
I find it amusing that the entire time I'm watching The Karate Kid, I can't help but think that what is his name, like Sensei Keese or whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't help but think he looks like a knockoff version of David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
Very, very similar features.
Chiseled chin,
curly brown hair that's cut in a similar length.
Granite cheeks, like with some wrinkles.
Like he just feels like evil David Hasselhoff, I guess. SpongeBob wouldn't want to find him at the beach instead of the real thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the SpongeBob movie?
Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen the original SpongeBob movie?
No.
I guess you might have been like a little too old for it when it came out.
I liked SpongeBob, the show before they switched writers.
Yeah.
And
because at a certain point, Steven Hillenburg was no longer involved.
Yeah, I don't...
R.I.P.
Did he die?
Yeah, he's dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Writing the show, he died. Or did they can him?
It was so he, I think, was heavily involved in the first like 3 or 4 seasons of SpongeBob, which is why like whenever people cite SpongeBob as a favorite show of theirs, they usually have the stipulation of, oh, but I only like the first 4 seasons. After that, I don't really count the show because he either was pushed out or he left.
Yes.
And I think it was like after the point in which I think the movie came out, the first movie, because like he was heavily involved with that.
If he's involved, I mean, I would check it out. I liked the show kind of, I want to say I was in middle school, but there was a lot of like, age appropriate for me jokes. Maybe not for, you know, the targeted demographic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
SpongeBob has a few notable jokes that are a little higher brow than than what kids are used to. The most notable one being the prison rape joke in the episode where he gets Gary to take a bath. Do you remember that one?
No, I can't. I mean, like SpongeBob is so notorious, yet my viewing experience was probably only 3 years of it.
Right.
You know, so like, but there are certain things that like I will throw on. Could throw on, not say I should say will, but could throw on and be like, oh yeah, you know.
SpongeBob was one of the few shows that I think my parents didn't mind that I watched all the time, because you know, if you're a parent, you have a kid, they have their shows that they watch where you're like, this is the most annoying shit in the world to me.
Yes,
I don't know why my kid likes this, but SpongeBob was one of the few where my parents weren't actively hating it as it was playing.
Highbrow jokes. They probably got some of the things that went over your head.
Yeah. To explain the prison rape joke, by the way, I'm Kyle.
I'm Mac.
What an introduction. To explain the prison rape joke from SpongeBob, it's an episode in which he's trying to get Gary to take a bath, and Gary doesn't want to take a bath.
Right.
And he leads Gary into the bathroom under the guise of it being like a pirate adventure where they're going to find treasure. And he puts bars of soap in front of Gary, and he's like, look, doubloons, don't drop them. And then he winks at him. And as a kid, I'm watching it thinking like, I don't know what this means, but I like SpongeBob. And then as I got older, I'm like, oh, this is if you're in prison and you drop the soap, you get butt fucked.
Yes.
Non-consensually. That's fun. So anyway, you want to talk about childhoods being ruined and explained to you. There you go. We got a couple movies to talk about.
We do, speaking of childhood movies.
Yeah, speaking of childhood movies. So this is one of those cases where I think it would behoove us to talk about the original movie first.
Okay.
Before we talk about the new theater release.
Yes.
And since I think Karate Kid specifically was your recommendation, if you want to be the one to summarize it.
Yes.
That would be most excellent.
Let me do that. I'm pulling it up right now.
I recently watched Wayne's World for the first time. And so when I said most excellent, I really channeled my inner Wayne.
Yes.
That
movie.
Wayne's World, party time, excellent. Yeah. What a time capsule.
Dude, that movie to me, I think, is more sophisticated, or there's so much more abstract thinking around that movie as opposed to just being a pure comedy.
Yeah. It's a movie in which like we watched it as a group of friends, and I enjoyed it. I think part of it is a little inaccessible for like a first time watching, especially because it's so like time oriented referential. I have a feeling that if I watch it again, I'll like it more.
Maybe. I mean, that is true. It is of the time. I think there are things that like in the height of being in the like around that time period, absolutely understand, right? Like I could see not a lot, but I could see it being lost on most, not picking up or understanding some of what they're referencing, or just not being as funny.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's the funniest movie in the world, but I just enjoy thinking of it more outside of like it being Wayne's world, so he controls what happens in that world.
Yeah, the movie has like more stuff going on than I think a lot of people would give it credit for.
Yeah, I think it's very witty. Speaking of witty, and the opposite of that, we got the Karate Kid.
Very kind of cinder block movie that's in your face.
Yes. The Karate Kid, 1984's The Karate Kid, not to be mixed up with The Karate Kid 2 or 3 or the other Karate Kid.
The next Karate Kid.
Yes.
Or Cobra Kai.
Or Cobra Kai or Karate Kid Legends.
Which we will talk about.
This Karate Kid starts off the franchise, and it is starring Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, or the titular Karate Kid, Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi, Elizabeth Shue as Allie Mills, Martin Kove as John Kreese, and then William Zabka as Johnny Lawrence.
Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the name pronunciations.
Yeah. Directed by John G. Alvidson,
who I believe also directed the next 2 movies in the franchise.
He did. He also directed all of the Rockies.
Oh,
yes.
That makes a fucking lot of sense.
He is
after watching this movie.
Yeah. He is a franchise director, which good for him. He picked 2 good franchises to get behind and make. Written by Mark Kamen and someone else. So, Karate Kid. Synopsis: Daniel LaRusso is he's leaving Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a Jersey boy.
His mom gets a job. I always thought for the longest time she just got a job as a waitress. I didn't realize she was like working for a corporation and becoming a manager in training. I just remember they had to move to California because she got a job. And I remember being younger thinking like she got a waitressing job. That's why she moved there. Like,
she really likes that restaurant. They went there one time on vacation and was like, I need to revolve my whole life around this.
I always thought it was peculiar. So this time around, I actually was like, oh, okay, like this makes sense. Manager in training. So, young Danny boy, he makes a friend at the apartment complex and gets invited down to the beach, where they're going to play a fun game of soccer. And
Piper jumped on Mac's lap and it really threw him for a loop.
I guess you could sit there.
Piper, come on, baby. Piper. Man, she really likes you.
Yeah, I know. Every time she's warming up to me.
If I need to move her, she jumped.
No,
on.
She's good. I figure.
Okay.
You don't give a cat attention. Sometimes they'll just move on. Anyways,
I'm giving her plenty of attention. By the way, she is not starved by any means, despite what she would make you think.
No, I definitely wouldn't think that. So anyways, he's at the beach and, kicks a soccer ball at some chick, and there's a couple smirks and smiles, and they hang out into the fire at the night, and all of a sudden, some ne'er-do-wells show up and start causing a little bit of a fracas down there at the beach. Daniel decides to stick up for the young damsel in distress, only to get, what did he get?
His ass kicked?
Yeah. He got punched in the face, didn't he? Because he gets that black eye. Yeah, he took a beating. He took a whooping, as they say.
Yeah. Well, he's fighting Johnny, and Johnny's like kind of just tripping him, like not really like hitting him quite yet, and then
no, he catches him with like something to the face.
Yeah, Daniel lands one on him.
Oh, that's right.
And that's when Johnny goes turbo
Cobra
ass beating
Kai
mode.
on his ass.
No mercy.
Jesus, man, I am fucking Mr. Popular today.
Max getting a FaceTime request.
I cannot stop. Like everything is, I've got it right now. Yeah. So, anyways, this kind of starts a feud with Johnny, and Johnny is not leaving him alone, and he is struggling to make friends. Everyone kind of sees that he's got the stench on him, and he's trying to swoon this young lady, and he's doing everything he can while remaining out of the limelight of Johnny and his ne'er-do-well friends. And one time it just becomes too much, gets into a little bit of a tussle with 5 of them, starts taking an ass beating, and then lo and behold, a mentor pops out of the shadows to help save them and bring them along the journey of finding balance.
So, spoiler alert for The Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid.
1984 is The Karate Kid.
Yes.
So you recommended these 2 movies. I have a couple things to say about these 2 movies being recommended specifically, but I want to say first, I had no familiarity with Karate Kid directly. Obviously, it was a franchise I was familiar with.
Yes.
I knew some of the tropes. I knew the idea of like what this movie was going to be. There's a lot of movies that are inspired by this type of story structure, and it is referenced in pop culture so much.
Yes.
Wax on, wax off.
Yep.
I think I had heard that phrase like years and years and years ago before I even knew what Karate Kid was. And so it was a very kind of like exciting prospect to be talking about this movie. Very interesting how there is, I think, like decades worth of continuity in between this movie and Karate Kid Legends that pretty, I would say, mostly seamless transition if you're going from like bookend to bookend, or if you are someone who is like a diehard fan who has seen every fucking movie in this entry, in this franchise.
Yeah.
That being said, as a one shot, if I'm looking at this movie on its own, I quite enjoyed it.
Good.
I had fun with this, and I feel like I need to talk about my viewing experience also, because I think Megan will get mad at me if I don't mention this.
Okay.
So
she'd seen this?
I think she had seen this before.
Okay.
I think her mom specifically is a fan of Ralph Macchio as a aesthetically pleasing person.
Yes.
So the way we watched this movie was that we set up a blanket fort in the middle of the living room.
Oh, yeah.
And she posted something on Facebook.
Yeah, I saw that.
You probably saw it.
Yeah.
And kind of a pain to set up, but
it looked that way.
It was comfy and cozy. And I think Karate Kid is maybe the perfect movie to watch after making a blanket fort.
Yes.
Because
balance.
Although it is a story that you are familiar with, even if you hadn't seen this movie, it's still a fun time that offers a lot of value in terms of the way this movie is shot, the performances of this movie, the pretty straightforward but reliable narrative that I think goes into it.
Yeah, this is a plug and play type
very much
script, but like we were kind of alluding to, not to say first of its kind, but the coming of age stories at that point, I don't think there's a whole lot to fall on, and I could be way off.
Yeah,
but I think now we see so much more coming of age stories with the plug, like that kind of structure built around it. So like it's kind of hard to go back to the origin when you've already gotten so much of the filler.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
I tried, like, I was like kind of keeping that perspective of like, all right, like I'm in 1984. How is this kind of resonating with me if I hadn't really seen this type of structure before?
Yeah, and also like there is an appeal to watching a movie that, because of the time it came out, and like obviously at the time it was contemporary, but now looking back, you watch a movie like this, you kind of have to view it as like, oh, this is a period piece, and it's just set in this time period now, so that's how I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I also really do think that one of my favorite things about this movie is the way in which Daniel is portrayed as a real kid. I think that
Which is, he was 22 when they filmed
which
this.
I was going to bring that up. It's hilarious that
yeah,
because in my mind, while I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself like, oh, obviously like William Zabka is like the older kid who's like maybe played by someone in his 20s, and Daniel LaRusso, they got like an actual 15-year-old to be in this movie.
Yeah, Macchio does not look 22.
He plays so young, and he was 22 at the time that they filmed this movie, which to me is like, that is crazy, but also I think it's like kind of the secret magic of this movie is that they get this kid who very much kind of has like Tom Holland disease of, he's always going to look a little bit younger than he actually is, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get into the new Karate Kid.
Yes.
But it really does, I think, help this movie give it an authenticity that not only I think is the performance really resonant with that, but also like the choices that they have the character go throughout this narrative. So like one of my favorite moments is when Daniel kind of has his breakdown, and throughout most of the movie you kind of see him have this level of confidence and cockiness that you're not quite used to seeing in a lot of like sort of coming of age movies anymore. A lot of the time the protagonist is a little bit
meek, shy,
not
kind of sure, like discovering their identity.
Figuring out who they are.
Yes.
From the word go of this movie, it's like, he's the new kid, but also he has a level of confidence that you're not quite used to seeing anymore. And I think that that's very refreshing, especially for a movie that came out like fucking 40 years ago.
Yes, this is a very, I don't want to say realistic approach, but a lot of the time it's the, hey, we're going to target the weaker kid because he's shy, introverted, whatever it may be, right? This was a great look where it felt like really realistic with like, and I don't want to say like predators, but like when you get picked on or bullied, I mean, it's not just that type of group.
Yeah.
Like anyone can get, and this one, it happened to be the new kid that doesn't know the rules around where he's at, makes a mistake, and all of a sudden he's the target.
Right. And it helps that he's like physically smaller than most everybody else.
Yes. I mean, he's a string bean.
But that moment that he has later in the movie where he has that breakdown with his mom, where he's like, why did we have to move? Why can't we go back home? This sucks. This is horrible. I hate it here.
Yeah.
That to me was like, okay, this is really when the movie's working. It's taking what we know about this character who like has this level of confidence, whether or not it's earned, and then that is immediately shattered because like everything feels so against him. And also the idea that like he is a teenage boy, emotions and feelings are so strong and raw when you're at that age. That's like, it makes sense that he would have these strong feelings and kind of like lash out in that way.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts for sure.
Nice. I mean, it was he does a really good job of presenting himself as. I'll preface it this way. I love that this movie talks about balance, and you can see it's also very reflective in the characters and how they're doing certain things, right? Like, and especially with him, he's always, like you said, cocky, confident, brazen. But that's also, he is so shifted one way. He has to give that look because he's in a new area, a new environment. He can't necessarily be meek or sensitive or understanding, right? So he is like completely one way. And as you go through the film, you kind of start to see a little bit of that tranquility set within him as he's finding his discipline and his passion with karate and, practicing and working with Mr. Miyagi and doing certain things. Like he gets a little bit more temperate, if you will.
Yeah.
Like at the very beginning, like he is like zing, zang, zoom, and then kind of once you're gearing up towards the karate tournament, he has more of these conversations where he's just very much like, I am who I am, you know, and it's fun to kind of see that balance as you start out the movie. It's so frenetic with him, and all of a sudden you're getting to this point where now he's very focused on what he needs to do. It's very simple yet effective character building. Yes.
And obviously too, part of that is his relationship with Mr. Miyagi. I like it when movies have established relationships with people who like they could have like less to do with each other at the beginning. Yeah. Where like he is the apartment handyman basically and is like, hey, can you like fucking clean our faucet or whatever? Yeah. Like it's in the kitchen sink, and I think he says something like soon or whatever. Just has like a one-word reply that is like kind of vague, and it's like, all right, I'll see you later. I love it when movies have relationships that start out like that, and then by the end of it, it's like, yeah, this is like my best friend.
A little cantankerous at first, and we find there's some more commonality than differences, and also it's a odd couple, right? I mean, that's essentially what they're kind of like at first too, and then the one conduit is obviously the karate training.
And I really do enjoy. I think one of the most effective things in this movie is the sort of vicarious way that Mr. Miyagi looks at Daniel like he's a son because of the personal tragedy that he endured, which is something that we don't learn about until towards the end of the movie.
That is, yes.
When he's, drinking the alcohol and he's
Sake.
Like, yeah, and he explains to Daniel that it's like, oh, it's the anniversary of him and his wife, and it's something that like he deals with every single year. There's like an amount of sadness that this guy just has a hard time getting through. And his relationship with Daniel is that sort of conduit of how he can like sort of remedy it without it being like sort of shoved in your face.
Oh yeah, and the whole time, I mean, it's so organic, and I think both of them at first treated it as
very
teacher
transactional.
Student. Yeah, exactly. And I really, from having seen this movie a couple times, this is the first time it really resonated with me with how great the writing is for that. You have Mr. Miyagi, who has kind of been this ominous character, steps in, helps Daniel out at one point, right? In a very like, all right, who is this guy? He then goes through all of these trainings, and it seems as if he's just the most perfect teacher. Knows everything about karate, can defend any. And then you find out that he's got this huge flaw as a character, and just the whole perception of him being just this, superhero, right? Like there's nothing that could stop him. I mean, obviously he's human, but having this one thing pop out in a very like. Words are escaping me.
It doesn't feel like it's constructed.
Yes.
It feels like it's a natural progression of where their relationship goes.
It makes a lot of sense, too, for why Mr. Miyagi is the way he is, too. Why he keeps to himself.
And it's not ham-fisting it to you.
No.
That's something that I think we can talk about extensively with the next movie we discuss. It's a good comparison point, honestly.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the way it's like, this is something that we're not going to like shove in your face, but we're going to save it until this moment to really give you the full impact of like their relationship and like put a new sort of context on it.
I love that they don't like lead up and there's pictures, and like there's conversations happening up to it to build up to that point.
Yeah.
Like it is so out of the blue.
Because you believe that this guy is like, he's a sedentary old guy who keeps to himself, doesn't have any family, and is perfectly fine with that as like a life choice.
Yeah, he's like a monk, just living kind of out, in his little ranch home in California, and he's just really good with karate.
Yeah, and then, he has Daniel do the sort of ritual of like wax on, wax off, paint the fence up and down, small brush for the small planks, whatever. Oh, can you paint my house now? Like
side to side, up and down.
Yeah, so then
wax on, wax off.
Your thoughts of the character go from, okay, this is like a wise old kind of isolated man, to, is this guy just like a cheeky bastard who's taking advantage of this kid?
So I'm watching it with Preston, and I was trying to get him to be like, Preston, what do you think's happening? Mm-hmm. And Preston's like, he goes, I don't know, maybe it's going to help him or something like that. And I was like, you don't think he's like taking advantage of him? And he's like, well, no, but he might, like it's just a kid. Like he's like, I know how movies work.
Right. Even he kind of like sees the goal of where the movie's going.
But it is fun to like, all right, how are we going to contextualize this? Right? Yeah. How are we going to apply this to where he's going? And it's like, hey, you've got 6 weeks for this tournament. The best I can do is have you practice this movement for 8 hours without telling you you're practicing this movement, right? Yeah. And it's a very creative way for teaching. Like me just being, kind of the coaching kind of coming out with me and seeing it. I was like, that is so fun to think about, as like you're always trying to experiment with new ways to get kids to practice and understand and apply the technique to what they're doing. And I was like, this is such a rich way of doing that. Now, obviously, child labor laws are in effect now. And, you can't just...
Goddamn liberals.
Yeah. You can't just take these kids...
Try to keep my kids out of the McDonald's drive-thru.
Shake in, shake out. You can't apply that, but it's very fun, especially with not knowing what Mr. Miyagi is doing. Like you just saw him beat the guys up, and as a viewer, you're like, all right, he knows what he's doing. But there's nothing else surrounding him that's going to suggest that this is leading to anything.
Because that fight scene really it lets you in on, okay, this guy's not like total bullshit,
right?
But is he still like someone who is like a little opportunistic in the way he's training Daniel, air quotes, and then you realize,
he's a handyman.
You're right.
I don't want to do this shit.
But then you realize, like, no, there is a value into what I'm doing. I want to pose a question, and I don't know if it's a question we can fully answer.
Okay.
Is this movie the sort of, if not origin, at least popularization of the idea of a character going through a training regimen in a way that seems counterintuitive, but then later realizes that it's valuable and can actually help him in the movie? Because, like, obviously this movie, I think, is the sort of text of that as a trope, but then you get movies like Kill Bill or like Kung Fu Panda, where those are movies in which, like, hey, I'm ready to train, Sensei. And Sensei's like, all right, lick the lint from my fucking toes. And the guy's like, I don't know how that's going to help me. But then you realize, oh, it's making my tongue stronger so I can fight against like fucking evil Goku or whatever the hell.
Yeah, it's a lot of different.
Is this movie
attached there?
is this movie sort of like the beginning of that, or is there like earlier examples in like Japanese or like other Asian cinema?
I don't really know. It's an interesting question to pose.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, and I would say that almost in an organic sense of it just being grounded in reality, perhaps, because I could see Kung Fu Panda's Kung Fu Panda, Kill Bill's Kill Bill, right? Like all those. There's some air of superpowers, right? Of just things happening not in our universe, right? So within this context, like I would have to go through my early movie list. I don't really know how many movies dealt with training like this. Like Rocky, Rocky's everything's kind of geared up. There's a couple things within Rocky that maybe were not applicable, that you would kind of say like, oh, that's not necessarily conventional. Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna admit something to you, and I don't want you to be furious with me.
I can already tell where it's going.
I have not seen any of the Rocky movies.
Well, there's the next franchise we could tackle.
There we go. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of the tropes and sort of like understand what that franchise is about, but haven't actually sat down to watch any of them.
Rocky 4's a good one to compare to this, but it's the same director too. So I mean, like trying to just think, I don't know how many times there's been like teacher student, kind of, just having a pupil and doing some unconventional ways of training. Like I don't think that was like a big thing in the 70s,
right?
And if anything, it may be business movies or something. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look. But
yeah. No, I really enjoy the relationship. The performances, I think, are really good, especially between those two.
Dude, they're every time they're on the screen, like you can't help. It's chocolate and peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really like found the formula for this type of movie and really kind of like cranked it up so that people would watch it and go like, yeah, I love this dynamic, like fun young kid and like stoic old man.
Yeah.
Like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Because this movie came out before Back to the Future, right? Or did it come out after?
Probably close.
I think people were like in that headspace when it came to the culture was like, yeah, I love seeing a young kid with an old dude go on adventures.
It's the odd couple formula.
Yes.
You know, like that's where if you can get some electricity going between the two leads, like you're gonna, you know, that's where this movie it's fun because I mean it takes a couple tropes and combines it. And it's something like, and that's where I mean, like coaching kind of comes in. You just don't really see a whole lot of those movies. Like a lot of it, like Back to the Future, you're dealing with, you know, a fun event going on as opposed to trying to train or teach someone, right? Mm-hmm. So, no, this works. I mean, this is. I guess I can't really. I mean, to me, everything kind of comes up like I'm thinking of like Daniel being a river and Mr. Miyagi, or Daniel being a rock and Mr. Miyagi being a river, and you know, Miyagi's helping Daniel kind of find inner peace, essentially, right? And not necessarily, I don't know, and I guess I haven't said that out loud. Maybe that's what Daniel also provided some to Mr. Miyagi in the form of having like a plutonic son or a pseudo son, you know?
Let's talk about Johnny Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
I think that he works very well as like kind of fucking toe-headed antagonist that is just like, not like evil, but just like an annoying asshole. Like, this kid has like such a punchable face.
Yes.
That works so well as like an opponent to Daniel.
Dude, he is the effigy of like what bullies look like.
Yeah. You know? You think bully in like the 80s, this is the kid that comes to mind.
I would say like even take out 80s, just think of that attitude. Like that went all the way to the 2000s.
Yeah.
You know?
Because he's not like give me your lunch money type bully.
No.
He's like just sort of, I don't know, like, yeah, just an annoying, prickly guy who has like no personality outside of being like a macho dude.
Yeah.
Like, and he's gonna show it to anyone who wants to look his way, whether or not it's like Allie, who used to be his girlfriend, or Daniel, who he's trying to like one up in everything that he does.
Yeah. I think he is the epitome. Well, I think that's why a lot of people don't like him.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where there's no rhyme, there's no reason. Daniel really didn't do anything besides stepping up to him and saying, don't beat up that girl, right?
I really do enjoy how their rivalry starts out.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Johnny's being mean to him for the sake of it.
There's a new kid, let's beat his ass.
Right. It's,
you know?
Yeah, that's why I said it's not like that, let's take his lunch money thing.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, it's understandable why their fucking beef starts. She's interested in him, and she used to date Johnny. Like, there's a history there that Daniel is getting in the way with, and
unbeknownst to him,
right? Unbeknownst to him, but like he gets caught in the middle of it, and then it's game on. You know, at least in Johnny's viewpoint. Yeah, I really enjoy how that starts. One of my favorite moments with him is not even like a moment that he has like a line in. Really, it's when Daniel first shows up to the Cobra Kai dojo to like kind of see what it's about. He doesn't know that Johnny's there yet, but when they all take a bow and he sees Johnny sees him and has this like little shit-eating grin for a moment.
Yeah.
and then he immediately goes back to like, you know,
Kioi!
Cobra Kai mode.
Kioi! Yeah.
And I just found that moment so amusing. It's a very like kind of human thing of like, yeah, I could see this happening in real life. Like someone would get like a little like naughty kick out of seeing their like bully victim show up to your dojo where like you have all the power.
That's what I'm saying. Like you get, like, well, and there's so many emotions that to me flood into that, right? Mm-hmm. One, it's like, oh yeah, there's a guy beat his ass. Two, you realize that he's seeking answers, right? And you're like, he went to the wrong place. Not only he's not going to get the upper hand on you that way, you now know that he's looking for this, right? So it's almost like a strategy thing of like, oh, I just found out what your next move is.
Yep.
So it's like you see that, and then you go into your head like, okay, one, we'll just make his life living hell. Two, I know that he's getting in karate, so now I can just give him shit about this, right? Maybe we'll force him out of that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like, you just walked into my dojo. Like, you think you're going to come in here and top dog me?
Yeah.
You know, like,
it almost gives him like an excuse to be like, all right, game on. If you're in this place and you're looking to do karate, then, or like Cobra Kai, Kung Fu, whatever martial art form they're teaching. Then it's like, yeah, I can just like kind of beat the fuck out of you whenever I want.
Yeah. Like, and it removes some of the uncertainty of where your opponent might be at. Right. Like if you're picking on someone or you're doing whatever and you don't know that they're training for it, and all of a sudden they come in and they can one up you. Right. So now all of a sudden you have the higher ground on Anakin.
That's right.
So it's so simple, right? How effective is that there's no words spoken? Like in movies nowadays, it's like, oh, there he is, and then everyone looks up and they have to start laughing, or like that is just like a simple 3-second looks up, smirks, like there's my bitch, and then back down, and that's it, right?
I enjoy how also, this is like a smaller anecdote, I enjoy how his like one friend in his group almost seems like he's worse than Johnny is. What was his name? Like Bobby or something?
Two of those guys are more psychotic than what...
Two of those guys, like when Daniel was facing them in the tournament, were like fucking insane.
Yes.
Like Johnny's an asshole and he's a bully. Like those other two kids are like fucking psychotic.
Yeah,
they've got like crazed looks in their eyes.
Yeah, they're the ones that you want to worry about when you're like, hey, let's burn the car, and then you kind of say it as a joke.
Yeah.
And you're the headman, and then you got two guys running out there with fucking torches.
And I like the one kid who is like kind of the softest of them all, where he's like, come on, Johnny, you're taking it too far. Leave him alone. And when he's in the tournament and Kreese encourages him to like break his leg or whatever, he like immediately starts apologizing after he does it. Obviously, like, kid's still a bully and shouldn't have done it, but like, I do like how it makes it more dynamic that way of like, yeah, these aren't just like nameless fucking goons that follow Johnny to the ends of the earth. Like, these are actual characters who have their own personalities that has to be reckoned with one way or another.
Well, and, just from and it sets up more of the next films, I think, but you also get a sense you're dealing with high school kids.
Yes.
You're not dealing with like these older people are just robot, like you mentioned, henchmen, right? Like, these are people you could see when Kreese says that to him, and there's a lot of like, I'm not going to do that, Like, I'm not sure about that, but it's an authoritative figure, and there's some fear with this guy, and it's like, this is a decision that I guess I have to make, or a choice I'm making, but obviously, like, I don't feel like this isn't who I am, and you start to feel that there's some respect being, at least with the lower level, not Johnny, but those other kids, like, there's a certain respect being built towards Daniel, whether the apology was genuine or not.
Right.
But like, you do get a feeling like this is kind of, it's teetering more so on like a war as opposed to, this just being a battle.
Yeah.
Right.
That being said, the end when he does win the trophy and Johnny hands it to him and is like, you're all right, LaRusso, to me was a little quick. Like, obviously, like, they're celebrating and it's not like going to be totally an in-depth conversation, but it is just sort of like this, like, oh, I guess he's all right with him now. Like, if you're watching this, and I know like Johnny Lawrence is a character that they have a back and forth with throughout like the history of this as a franchise with like the next movies and obviously like Cobra Kai, that's like the entire thing. But if you're watching this movie like on its own, kind of like how I did, it's very jarring to just have him be like, you know what, you're not so bad. Here's your trophy. Like, obviously he's upset about it still. Yeah. But it just comes and goes and it's so quick.
I agree. I'm not, that is there. I think we always kind of talk about, like, we kind of get into the tips about like when respect's earned. How hard is it to get that on camera? Because a lot of the time I do feel like it ends up being that way.
Yes.
And I'm always on the side of, I get it, because like I do think that it's like a fight, like when I think like when kids fight or whenever something happens, like you eventually, if you can come out on top of that, there is some mutual respect there, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that is something that does happen where, how do you showcase that? It probably would have helped if there was a denouement with this thing.
Right. Like if there was moments throughout this movie where like you can see Johnny have flickers of like understanding Daniel, or like maybe even kind of like being like, all right, this kid maybe is not totally a loser, and then have that same scene at the end, I could maybe get behind it a little bit more. But because this movie has like nothing in the way of Johnny showing respect to him at all, it is sort of like a flip is switched, at least to me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. This thing ended so abruptly.
Very abruptly.
Like the second movie actually
he gets hoisted up and credits start rolling.
I mean, it's like a freeze frame and then it's over, right? Like the second movie picks up, and I'm not giving anything with that one, but it picks up where this one ends at.
I think I know how the second one
starts. Yeah. And in my head, I couldn't remember if that's how it began or if it was like one of those things where, you know, sometimes when the sequel will take the last 5 minutes of the first one and put it in there.
Yeah.
And then it just continues on. I was like, I can't remember. And all of a sudden it was like freeze frame credits. Like, oh, they didn't do that. This is just like, hey, we're done.
Yeah.
You know? And it was one of those things where Johnny comes running up and says like, yeah, you're all right. And I'm like, I feel like there'd be a little bit more of a conversation, you know?
Right.
Or of like a hand, like,
Give
me a fucking handshake or like just hand it over and just kind of gentle nod at each other, you know, like, hey, we both got
right,
it.
like fucking Top Gun, like Iceman and Maverick looking at each other, and then having like an exchange that has a lot more meaning behind it than these two in this movie does.
I just don't think they knew what to do there, and that one definitely felt rushed. But you know, in the end, I think it would have played out that way.
Yeah.
So.
If we're kind of sticking to the topic of things that we weren't like huge fans of this movie,
I don't know how much I got.
I have like one other major one, and it's not going to like really bring down my score.
But rattle off what you got.
It's really like the biggest thing that rubbed me the wrong way was Daniel's relationship conflict with Allie later in the movie. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Miscommunication conflicts in movies, I think, can work, but are oftentimes really lame. And I don't think it's an exception that this movie has one that I just didn't like. It was the scene in which she is at the like ball or whatever, or like the like country club dancing with people, and she's dancing with her father, and she already told Daniel that she would meet him outside at 9:30, and it's 9:40, so she's already late. And then Johnny comes up and starts dancing with her, and she's, you know, being polite. And then Daniel comes in because he's like, what the hell is taking her so long? And sees her dancing with Johnny, doesn't have the context of like her punching him in the face to like get him away from her after he like tries to kiss her, I think, or something.
He saw it. He sees the kiss.
He sees the kiss.
He scrambles,
knocks over a huge plate of spaghetti. Maybe like the most spaghetti I've ever seen in my life.
It's kind of wild.
It's a little wild.
Yeah.
Covered in sauce and noodles. And is embarrassed in front of the entire club. They all start laughing at him like it's a nightmare scenario. And
which, I mean, I'm not. I think if anyone's watching there, you see a kid run into that, it's good.
It makes sense if they were all like kids in there, but they're all adults, and I feel like it would have made more sense if like most of them were just like, oh, is this kid like all right? Like, obviously he's not in a good position.
I don't think I mean,
I don't know. Felt a little cartoony to me.
Without a doubt. I mean, they're trying to pick something to do where he's got total embarrassment.
Right. And then he like runs away. Obviously, that right there is like a big miscommunication point of conflict in the movie.
She punches him after he runs away.
I know, but to me, it's a bit sweaty. And then on top of that, they have her be mad at him for some reason, even though she's the one who has been perceived to have done the wrong thing.
Yeah, like that's a miscommunication.
I know, but I don't like it, and I don't think it works. I just don't think it works.
You have to have something, and to me, this was a fine. I don't have any issue with it because how I see it is the events led up to what he saw. He takes off. She obviously takes some grievance with what Johnny did, and then what gets lost in translation there is that he pretty much avoids her. Yeah. And then decides that he's going to come to terms with and accept her apology. And she is under the impression of, you didn't see me stick up for you. You know, I didn't have a chance because it all happened so quickly, right? and I stuck up for you, and you don't get that. And so they both built assumptions on each other. I mean, that's how like it works.
Right.
Take a high school, it's a high school relationship, so you're not dealing with adults here that are able to sit down and express their feelings and emotions.
I get that. I don't think the movie communicates that in an effective way. At least not for me to get behind it. I think the thing that would have made more sense to me as a point of conflict between the two, and it's something that the movie kind of sets up and abandons, is their class difference. In that,
why do you always go nerd route?
Well, he
like every time you're always like, well, I got a new.
it's a point that the movie itself brings up, where he goes to like pick her up in his mom's car, and her mom's like in the driver's seat or whatever, and they have to like roll it down the hill.
It was a country club ball. It was the class difference. All the rich people are laughing at.
Well, is it the class difference or is it the miscommunication difference?
I think what it is a culmination of all that stuff. Like, he goes to a rich country club. His mom's got the beater car. He's in a like a member's jacket, right? Like, the nicest he can do is get all like the khakis, the white, probably denim shirt with the red country club, like the member's jacket. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with those or not.
I'm too poor to be familiar with that.
Members jackets?
I know what they are.
Okay.
I'm making a joke because I am myself a broke little bitch.
You're not the only one. But so he shows up and he sneaks in through the kitchen because he doesn't have access.
Right.
So his whole thought behind all of this is, she's too rich and snooty for me. Of course, she'll go for anyone else outside of me. They've alluded to it all that time. So, like, when that embarrassment happens, it's not just Johnny laughing at him. It's all the rich people laughing at him. So while Johnny's like, ha, look at you, you idiot. I just kissed you. I'm stealing your gal. He's also seeing all these older people laughing at him, being like, look at this broke, the broke kid that lives in Reseda. Like, that's kind of like, at least how I interpret it, was like he took all of that, soaked it all in, and then he's like, that's why I'm not good enough for her.
Sure. I definitely see that that's what the movie was going for.
Yeah.
It's something that to me was not, I don't know. It felt like it was kind of like picked up and put back down a little too quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, there's not too much about this movie that I have an issue with. I enjoyed the way it was shot. I think there are some frames of this movie that are really gorgeous, like when he's on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing like kind of his like punch, wax on, wax off moves. When he's doing like the crane kick, he's practicing that on like the beach or whatever. The shot when he goes into the dojo and like it's I mentioned it earlier, but when everybody bows and Johnny sees him, it's like, oh, this is like really decent filmmaking on a technical level.
You know what? I know, I was thinking about it too. I'm like, with these with these movies that come out, especially geared for a younger audience, we just have so much of it that is like one camera angle, one shot, or like the takes where there's no dialogue, maybe it's choreographed. Like, there's just nothing in the way that there's two characters that are sitting down and the camera's picking them both up and how they're interacting with one another. Mm-hmm. Like, this thing does such a great job with him and Mr. Miyagi, and it's like there's no over the shoulder conversations, right? There's nothing where it's like in the next room and he's just kind of sitting there. All of the stuff with them acting together is mostly both of them in the frame working off each other, doing lines back, like dialogue.
It never feels disorienting. It feels very consistently made.
Yeah, well, and they both can sit there and like you're not having like the camera, with the stop editing. Right?
Yeah.
Just going back and forth, back and forth.
It doesn't have any like unnecessary cuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, well, and all that stuff, like if you want to get those takes, like you have to have them both doing it. And I feel like nowadays with everything going on, it's just like, all right, well, your take's good, but we're going to redo yours. So now you get these smash cuts between these freaking conversations that go on. So nothing really feels organic. Mm-hmm. You don't ever feel like you're in that setting with the characters, right? It feels very cinematic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really like this one. I think it's well shot. I'm like, it's not crazy. It's nothing that's very special. But
this isn't going for like a cinematography award at the Academy, right. But it definitely it's confident and consistent in how it's portraying the narrative, and I give it kudos for that. The music. I feel like we can't not talk about the music in this movie. Is it Push It to the Limit that they play pretty consistently throughout, as they're like doing sort of like some montage moments here and there? Push it to the limit. It
might be. I can't. There was a couple songs that I had. The only two songs I got in my head from that is "Cruel Summer" and
that one too. Yep.
And "You're the Best Around" by Paul Esposito.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Because I think Push It to the Limit, or maybe it was like Eye of the Tiger. One of those other songs was going to be used in this movie, but was it John Alvinson decided that it was going to be better utilized in Rocky, so then he went with what was actually in this film,
which is I love that song.
It stuck out for sure, and not only does it make this movie feel like a quaint little time capsule, but also it just works for the context of what's going on.
Oh yeah, I mean it's part of it's a if you go with period piece,
and you talk about like Cruel Summer, this is a nice movie to watch when it's fucking hot as shit out, and you kind of want to like relate to what's happening outside.
The sympathy factor of what's going on with Daniel LaRusso and like that environment or climate, versus where we're at. Yeah.
Right. Going from East Coast New Jersey, part of the Northern Hemisphere, to like sweaty ass California, where it's just like sunshine and beaches and like sweat the whole time.
They never looked like too hot.
No,
it just felt hot.
It just felt like this would be kind of an exhausting environment to just breathe around.
When he had to do the chores, I was like, the wax on wax off day, I was like, all right, that doesn't look too bad. But the next 2 days, I was like, this looks miserable.
And they're all chores that are like outside in the sun, like kids getting fucking baked or whatever. It has to wear a hat all the time. Yeah, no, it's kind of it feels appropriately sweaty without it being grueling.
Yes,
because there's movies that you watch where it's like, oh god, this would be like miserable.
And they're kind of highlighting that.
Yeah,
or this one is. No, it's
This one, it kind of captures that feeling of when sort of like the Sandlot thing of like when you're a kid and it's the summertime and you've got all this time to like figure out what you want to do, and like obviously this movie I think has a little bit more of a conflict in the way that like there's an antagonist, but I still think it does the similar thing of like this is a kid in the summertime and you're gonna watch him be a kid in the summertime, whether or not it's like him having fun or like him helping out with these like maintenance chores, that sort of experience that like a lot of us when we were kids had during the summertime, where it's like you get like a summer gig when you're 14 years old and you're just out in the sun and you get like $20 at the end of the day. Like I don't know, it really evokes that feeling in a very effective way.
It's relatable. You're once again, it's kind of grounded, so you're able to relate to the character as opposed to it being cinematic, where you're just kind of taking it for popcorn value.
Yeah.
So while you're watching this stuff, you can see yourself doing some of the things that he's doing, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like you get this, like it evokes some nostalgia. And it kind of brings you a little bit back and, oh yeah, I remember when I had to mow the lawn or I was waxing cars out like that. Like I know how he's feeling right now.
Yeah.
Kind
of crazy he does give him a whole ass car.
Yeah, he had 8 them.
I guess if you have any to spare, why not?
I want to know how he got those cars.
I mean, doing all those chores, man, hard work pays off.
I was wondering how on a handyman bill he got, a house on the beach and 8 or 9 like classic cars.
Shall we talk about the sort of like fight choreography and like the end tournament section before we wrap up? Yeah. I thought pretty effective. For like an 80s movie. Some of the editing was like a little choppy to me when it got into like those action scenes, but I think it worked well enough for it to like still kind of like retain the tension of it. Yeah. Even if that section of the movie is, in my opinion, fairly quick.
Yeah, like it's the weakest part of the film.
It starts and it wraps up in like what, less than 10 minutes?
It is. It's more effective in the sense of what he's trying to accomplish, as opposed to like if you're like, I want to see how he wins the tournament, then you are not going to get your money's worth.
Right.
But if you were more so about the stakes and him finding inner peace or balance, you don't need everything else. Like you're just kind of waiting to see how is he going to get to this point with Johnny.
Yeah.
Right. And watching it, like, it's like, these fights suck. Like, they're not very good. Everyone's like, hey, it's 3 points, and we're just showing all the, the action shots of how he gets the final point, how is he rising up in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of them are like, I don't know, I feel like if you're a black belt, like, how does a kid go down from this, or
Right. There is this sort of like sense of the buildup is a little muted that way, especially when I think of another movie compared to this, like Vision Quest or something, where like Vision Quest is a movie where like obviously different goals, but that's a movie in which like that whole movie's structured around the buildup to like the final confrontation. Whereas like this is kind of supposed to be that as well, and then it really kind of just like boom, boom, boom. All right, let's just get to it. Let's just fucking barrel through this.
The one takeaway I had from this is watching it this time was that, and it was mostly from when he gets injured, and he has a spiel to Mr. Miyagi about, you really realize that what his goal with all of it is, at least in my opinion, is, like you mentioned, balance. I want to find this way to find balance within myself. And to me, like when I look back on some of the stuff, I'm like, all right, a lot of what he was experiencing and going through in the trainings and all of this stuff wasn't necessarily about Johnny Lawrence.
Right.
It's finding my identity.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Yeah. And that's where, for me, like kind of watching it, like at least in retrospect, thinking about it, I that's why I give so much like I have some not grievances, but it makes it more palatable for me, right? Like I don't need to see how he's going to take out the third guy in the fifth round. Like, and Vision Quest is very different, but it's just the one battle.
Yes,
it's not him rising through the ranks. It's more so if we were gearing up for the one event,
for sure. Was there anything else we wanted to say about The Karate Kid before we get to our ratings?
So the one I have to give it so much applause because this time around it really stuck with me, and so the very ending, he's got Lawrence, right, and he's kind of going through this stuff and he's trying to figure out how he can win this battle, and I never put the crane together with balance. It's never been associated with like, all right, like this is when he finally found it, right? And he sees Miyagi do it, and it's just kind of like one of those, like, in my head was we're gonna end this thing on a cool way to go down, and he saw Miyagi doing it, it's so tough to do, right? But that was a very great representation about what balance was, and he saw Mr. Miyagi doing it. Miyagi the whole time's preaching about finding balance, and he's balancing on that pole while he's doing those crane kicks, right? And it's obviously just a physical representation of like what this whole premise was,
right? This whole like narrative journey,
And I thought it was so cool, and that's why I give so much credit for the writing of this thing. Is it's not thrust in your face, and it is he found balance, and that's what it came out in the crane kick, but that's what the ultimate representation was of him finding that balance, right? And like it's that whole freaking crane kick thing, it was never even talked about. Miyagi just says it's a difficult move to do, in time you'll figure it out. So you're also thinking as an audience member, like, he mastered karate, right? But the whole thing is, like, Miyagi's pretty much saying to him, like, it's because we found our inner peace. We found balance with the world, right? We found it within ourselves, so that when it gets to that point, you'll be able to do it. And it's like just wise old crazy man talking. But like this time around, like watching, I was like, holy crap, like it's right there,
Yeah.
So I thought it was just like this time, like it's gotten bumped up in my head with where this was at, because I was like, it's so refreshing to watch a movie like this where not everything has to be force fed or explained, right? But also there are so many takeaways with how you view it that can make the movie enriching. Because like I see it that way, but someone else might just see it as like, we finally learned karate, or man, that's a cool ass way to end this fight.
Right. Like, sick move, bro. You pulled it off.
Yeah, like there's so many, but that's what really makes it like rewarding to me, is that it's not just funneled into, if you don't see it that one way, it sucks or it's good. Like there's just a bunch of different ways that this movie could have ended with your own interpretation and still make it a good movie, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's like you have to applaud the writing of this thing to get to that point and to have it end that way. And it's not even ambiguous. It's just there's multiple different ways of taking it, but there's also a conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. It takes the thing that I love that this movie does the best, in that it takes a very simple either like premise or meaning or theme, and it does it in a way that's like really well done, that you don't like, you might not even be like consciously thinking about it.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy this movie for that.
Yeah.
Let's get into ratings.
Also, can I say this too?
Yes.
They need to make movies where the stakes aren't so high. This is literally like, I need to stop my bully attacking me.
High like 60 stories up in New York, fighting on a rooftop, which we can get into.
Yeah.
You want to give your rating first?
No, you go first, right? Because I read it out.
That is right.
Yeah.
I'm a silly boy. Yeah, this is, I'll just come right out and say it, this is a high 8 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyed watching this movie. This is a good summertime flick. Really good coming of age movie, learning about figuring out who you are as well as accomplishing this task, navigating relationships in a new environment that I think can resonate with a lot of kids watching this movie, or like young people watching this movie who want to take something valuable away from it. Also, I think the filmmaking is pretty competent and well executed. It does what it needs to do. The only hangups I really have are the sort of like forced relationship conflict of it all, and a little bit of like how this movie barrels through the conclusion of it, but that doesn't make it ineffective. I still think this is a solid kind of like one-shot movie that happened to turn into one of the biggest franchises in Hollywood. So this is a solid 8 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, I bumped this up. Me and Preston watched this along with Jasmine. And Preston was kind of enthralled the whole time. Sat there, watched with me the whole time. Knew what was going on. Was keeping up with the beats. Was asking questions. And it's like, I really like movies like this that you're able to show to them that maybe not necessarily a mature audience, but like a little bit more sophisticated audience than where he's at, right? Because he's 8.
Mm-hmm.
But done well enough to where it makes sense to him, where this isn't a movie, but also you could see this happening. Like we were watching it and he was asking about Johnny and the bullies, and like we talked about bullies, where it's just like, it's so relatable, where it's like, oh yeah, he's experiencing this, I experience this, right?
Yeah.
Where with other movies, you don't necessarily get that relatability. You can obviously tell it's done for whatever purpose, right? Outside of it just being organic. The grievances I think I did have before completely washed away from me on this viewing.
Nice.
It was really, it's such a beautiful coming of age story. Like, it's just really fantastic. It's so well done. There's nothing like really egregiously done. There's nothing that's thrown in there for clicks.
Yeah, nothing feels fatty in this movie.
No, everything, it's so well trimmed. It is going through the right pace, right steps. I mean, this set up the structure to go on the years from when it came out. And the ending. I mean, just having seen the ending again and kind of having a different viewpoint on what that ending could be. Once again, I will always say it. If you can watch a movie for a second or third time and see the ending and get the whole film down and have a different opinion or viewpoint on it from your original one, you know that it's not necessarily a thinker film, but it obviously has much more representation than what you were giving it credit for, right? There's some depth to the film to be able to make you kind of have that introspection or retrospection on it. So this to me was a 9 out of 10. I bumped it up to 10 out of 10.
Ooh.
Like I really enjoyed this. And the question that I'd have for you, because me and Sam talked about it, and I don't think he was as glowing on the film as I was what movie's better, this or Vision Quest?
Oh man, I mean, despite the kind of like similar genre, they are very different movies.
Very different.
I mean, I guess it depends on like what you want to get out of them.
I mean, it doesn't have to be answered. It's just I think that's a really, when you can kind of take one movie that you've watched and you said is fundamentally good, and then compare another movie to it. And genre, yes, coming of age, but both in completely different aspects of what they're learning about themselves, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the questions that they're asking about the world around them. To have it be shown in that light, especially if you say Karate Kid, a lot of people go kids movie, and if you said
Vision Quest feels a little more grown up, yeah,
right. But point being is that at the center of that, for both of them to make you think about, all right, what one did I appreciate more at this age too? Not necessarily you're 12 watching both movies or 18 watching them,
right.
You've got a lot of life under you to be able to look at both and go like, wow, that one seems not much more age appropriate for high school kids, where this one seems a little bit more sophisticated for high school kids. You have to say they both strike a chord.
Yeah, I think they would be a good double feature, honestly.
Yes.
Cool. Well, speaking of Karate Kid, we watched the sequel, and by the sequel I mean the sequel that came out after like fucking 5 other sequels, right?
Yeah. Sequel of sequels.
We watched Karate Kid Legends, Karate Kid Legends, which also weirdly ties in the Jaden Smith movie. I say weirdly, but there's a major character in it. So
really,
yes,
the whatever Karate Kid came out whenever doesn't exist to me.
Sure. So this is Karate Kid Legends, 2025 American martial arts drama film. It stars Jackie Chan, who is the character that returns from the Jaden Smith movie, Ben Wang, Joshua Jackson, Sadie Stanley, Ming-Na Wen, Wyatt Oleff, Aramis Knight, and Ralph Macchio, who returns as Daniel LaRusso. This movie is about this young man, Li Fong, who lives in Beijing and is being trained in Mr. Han's dojo, Mr. Han played by Jackie Chan. When his mother arrives and tells him that they're moving to New York.
Yeah.
New York.
Boy,
let's say the dreams are made of. So they move to New York, much to his chagrin. Kind of parallels the first movie in that way. They move to a new place, except instead of across the country, it's across the world.
Yeah, and also there's not as much setup with like, hey, you've got this whole network here and your uncle's here and guess where we're going, and I think in the first one it's just kind of like they're in a car and leaving and he goes, boy, I'll miss this place.
Yeah, and instead of those, the sense of like losing your connections at home, there's this morose tragedy to it. So
like
he moves to New York
out of left field
and makes friends with this young girl, Mia, who works at a pizza shop, because he goes in and he's like, hey, you guys got stuffed crust? And her dad is like, what the fuck, stuffed crust?
Go
Who
to
the
Chicago
fuck does
if
this
you
guy
want
think
that.
he is? He walking into a New York slice shop, wants fucking stuffed crust, man. Who the fuck?
Yeah.
And then we learn that the father who owns the pizza shop is in horrible debt to the guy who owns the dojo that's like down the street or whatever.
Which I'm curious is how does that guy become loan shark? Yeah.
We can infer based on his previous profession as a boxer, because Li Fong decides to train this guy to fight in this boxing tournament to get money to save his pizza shop.
Yeah.
And then things go a little awry.
Yes.
Mr. Han has to get involved, and he also needs to employ the help of, spoiler alert, Daniel LaRusso, who flies out from sunny California to the big gray apple of New York City. New York! Anyway, spoiler alert for Karate Kid Legend.
Yes.
So I mentioned before how I found it quite interesting that you recommended the first Karate Kid movie, a movie that I was not opposed to watching at all. Unfamiliar with the franchise on a direct level, but nonetheless was excited to talk about. With this newest movie that came out in theaters, I totally understand your line of thinking. I understand where you're coming from. New movie coming out, be topical to discuss. Also, a classic 80s movie that is pretty seminal to that genre.
Okay. Yes, but or and. One of the two. We have to go see these movies in theaters. I get pressed and I don't like doing like a 4-hour chunk of my day when I don't get to see them. So I'm like, oh, what could I bring him to that's in theaters that would be okay to talk about, right? I've seen the trailer for this thing, very poppy. They're bringing back Daniel LaRusso. I've seen the first one, so I'm like, oh, we can tie in both. Yeah, I'm very happy that you hadn't seen the first one. Mm-hmm. But it was mostly just like, all right, they can attach both. And I knew the first one's good. And I was like, I don't think there's any way that you don't like it unless you feel it's a little stilted just from the 80s.
No, I didn't get that sense at all. And like, obviously, like recommending the first Karate Kid, pretty consistent, like holds up well. Slam dunk, I would say.
Oh God, I mean that movie. I am fairly certain that, like I was telling Jasmine, I was like, the first one, I was like, if a high school class could take the movie seriously, like if you could say, hey guys, unobjectively watch this, right, and put aside any sort of comments you want to make, this and that, I would feel 80% of those kids would be able to take something away.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's this movie, which is a sixth sequel after the first one was made, where there are hours, maybe even days worth of continuity between these two properties, given Karate Kid Part 2, Karate Kid Part 3, the next Karate Kid, the Karate Kid with Jaden Smith, that also happens to have Jackie Chan's character in it, who's also in this movie. And then, of course, this movie. Yeah. Not even to mention Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Which is I'm pretty sure, 6-season long narrative revolving around Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence's rivalry, where they turn into friends, basically.
Yeah, don't ruin it for me.
For my understanding. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't mean to. I picked it up after the end of this one.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, you didn't.
Yeah.
That didn't cross your mind when they said we should open a pizza shop together?
No, I definitely.
Call it, what did he say? Mahido?
Whatever.
That's pretty much my feeling on this film as a whole. So, I watched this movie. I'm the only one in the theater.
Wow.
I am just... And it's not like a small theater. It was in Theater 4 at the Cinema Carousel. So it was in like the more like main
prominent,
hall.
Yeah.
A little more prominent. It was towards the end, but still like pretty spacious theater where like... Yeah, if you're like 2 weeks into a big blockbuster, you might move it to that space.
Yeah.
And I walk in and there's like no one else. And I'm like, oh, maybe people are going to show up later. No one shows up later. I got the whole place to myself.
Yes.
And this movie begins and I'm like, okay, well, obviously it's got like some parallels to the first movie. Hard to kind of avoid that, especially if you want to like have that sort of iconography be familiar to the people watching it. Mm-hmm. I don't hate the first half of this film.
Agreed.
Because I think it is kind of a clever attempt at subverting what the structure of these movies, I can't say for certain, I'm only assuming, have been up until this point, right?
Yeah, yes.
Because a lot of what we are familiar with the Karate Kid is like mentor takes in young student, teaches them how to do karate. That is the structure of them.
They're plug and plays. That's just like they're plug and plays.
Very much so.
Their franchises are plug and plays. This was like you said, subverting expectations on how the plug and play works.
And I think that there was maybe something to this movie about we're going to take the kid and we're going to have him be the mentor to this like former boxer who owns this pizza shop who's in financial trouble. Obviously, very sweaty premise. I'm not here to defend the setup of it. I just think that the idea of it is unique enough to have some juice behind it.
Agreed. I don't knock it. I think they tried for something here. This doesn't feel necessarily like a just make the goddamn film, right?
Well, here's where I think that kind of
it
falters.
Does come in
because as soon as we said spoilers, as soon as the guy gets fucking knocked out and it becomes a more standard Karate Kid movie is when I think this movie becomes woefully uninterested in what it's doing. It feels so kind of like, let's just get through this. Let's just kind of like go through the motions of making a Karate Kid film in a way that feels so kind of like fast-tracked and inauthentic that I just like
he had
really
10
became
days to train for the tournament. Like it's so egregious with what they just decided to do.
Like we talked about the end of the first movie and how like, okay, the tournament itself feels a little lightning bolty. It's kind of like barreling through it pretty quickly, but it's still an effective way to end that film.
Yeah.
This movie is just like, what if we take the last half of that movie and that's just the whole thing without any sort of like intrigue or tension of what's going on?
It felt like there were two movies in this thing, and after the incident
1000%,
happened, they
yes.
said, let's compress the first movie into 30 minutes.
Like you've seen, this is going to be a weird comparison. You've seen David Lynch's Dune, right?
No.
Okay. Well, then you might not necessarily know what I'm talking about. But imagine you took, because you've seen the Villeneuve movies.
Yes.
We've talked about them on this podcast. Imagine you took the first movie and you made it like an hour long. Obviously pretty compressed still, but then you've still got like a good chunk of the narrative that you're digesting in a way that feels, if not fast-tracked, a little bit summarized.
Yes.
It's still got a pace, but it's going through it pretty quickly. Now imagine you did that, and then you took part 2, Dune, Denis Villeneuve's part 2 of Dune, and you made it a half hour long.
Yeah.
That is exactly what David Lynch's Dune is like. And that is kind of what this movie feels like it's doing. It is taking a movie that is already 90 minutes at the bare minimum of what like a theatrically released feature-length film would be.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's rushing through it because it doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
Right.
This is a movie that it kind of feels embarrassed to give us the second half of the narrative because it's so different. It at least feels like the first half is doing something that is interesting enough to where like, okay, there's some artistry here. There's like something that it's going for that's like different enough, but it's still like in the heart of Karate Kid with like him doing these like kind of cool Jackie Chan moves when he's fighting in the alley, and then like the subversion of him training the old guys so that he can be better at boxing and get the money for a shop. Like that stuff at least feels different. And then it just gets so fucking stale.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm just, my interest in this movie plummeted as soon as that started.
To me, it felt intentional because you have the climax being where it's at. So I think what ended up happening is that it was refreshing, and they probably weren't expecting it to be refreshing, because to me, that portion is, for an older audience member, refreshing, right? It's flipping it kind of on its head, as we're talking about with subverting. It is switching roles, right? But we still have this kind of odd couple going on with Joshua Jackson and Lee Fong. That's what I'm saying. I don't feel like that was the intention, but I definitely think the problem that had is it drug that out, and Lee Fong, like, that portion felt somewhat grounded. I like how you mentioned sweaty, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like not hammered out, but at least it feels somewhat grounded.
Yeah, there's a reason to what's going on. Yeah.
Yes. After that portion, I'm like, this is living in a totally different universe. And I don't think if I had to guess, no one's in that writing room going like, everyone's going to gravitate to the first part. Like, we're obviously setting this up. I think what also is...
Right, it feels accidental that way.
Yes, and that's why the whole brother narrative feels so freaking out of place. Because they already have enough
100%
stakes with what happened with just Joshua Jackson in that incident to go off that for him to do this. The brother narrative just feels so thrust in there.
Yeah.
Right? And it like... Watching this, because I brought Preston and I went with my friend Scotty.
I saw him, by the way. I saw him at Taste of Muskegon.
Yeah, he said that. I said, go talk to Kyle about the Karate Kid movies. He's watched all of them, I think, at this point, and he's up to season 4 of Cobra Kai.
Damn.
Yeah, like he was. And he brought his stepson with him, so we all went and watched it, and my dad came, and, like that is happening. I'm like, why are they putting this in this PG movie? Like, we didn't need any of this. This just got so morbid so quick, and it's like an unsettling topic to have like your kids with you like want to ask about.
Right.
And it's not really set up well.
No.
They kind of allude to it, but I think older audience members are like, oh, that dude's gonna die.
Because it's not like they pull out a gun and shoot him in the stomach, and it's like, oh, You don't see any blood, obviously,
No,
but then it's like the end of it. It's pretty quick. It's a fucking knife.
Yeah,
that they're like stabbing him.
Walking down dark alley, and someone was upset.
Implied to be like multiple times.
Yes,
which is like I don't understand why this movie has to feel like it needs to like go into like the Big Hero 6 of it all when Big Hero 6 did it so much better. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Of course I've seen Big. Yes.
It's a very kind of like similar thing, but in that movie we see the thing happening from the get-go, and that's sort of like what the emotional hook of that movie is. Whereas this, it's just like kind of tossed in there in between these like moments of sort of like whimsy and Ben Wang being like a little goober boy.
Yeah.
And it feels like so tonally not right for what it's going for.
I think the issue that I have with it is that there's so much going, like, okay, in the first one, like we set up, they're both set up in the same way of new environment, new city, new kid on the block.
Yes.
Literally all you need. They tease us in this one with some emotional conflict going on why he is also struggling with whatever, which I like don't need. I don't think that.
No, it's putting a hat on a hat. You're already putting the character through something that is a struggle. So therefore, why would you need to like kind of double down on that and make it feel even more like a Sisyphus thing of like, oh, I'm just trying to push this rock up the hill and it's fucking fell down. Now he's got 2 rocks to push up the hill. and it's so unneeded.
It's at the detriment of both like the demographic that you're kind of hitting this at is,
and it's watering down the other thing too.
Yes, like that's the whole, like all of this emotional stakes that are building up felt so like needlessly elaborate, right? Like you get to this point, and all of a sudden, like some of this buildup that you're kind of feeling just gets washed away because it's like, why is this here? What? Yes, I understand, but he's got enough going on just being a new kid. Like,
you're right.
You're beating him over the head with this like depression.
And I liked when this movie was about like this kind of unknowable kid who's like making his way through this really hyper unfamiliar, scary environment. New York City, the Big Apple, New York.
Yeah. And like they got the cars going by, they got people talking, like it is frenetic.
Right. And he's like, he doesn't feel like totally out of his depth, but he's clearly in a place that he's unfamiliar with, that like he needs to like learn how to navigate. Right.
Like imagine having to process that much that quickly with what's going on just in order to survive. And English isn't even your first language.
Right. You know, like, I would have been totally happy if this was purely just like a fish out of water, Karate Kid, whatever entry.
Yeah.
You know? And then it has to put those like, I said it before, like these like overly melancholic stakes on it that I have no emotional resonance with at all, especially after fucking Joshua Jackson's character gets knocked out. Because at that point, it's like, all right,
that's all you need.
We've gone as low as we can go, and now everything else just kind of feels diluted.
Yeah, well, oh, by the way, you guys thought that was sad? Wait till you see this.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you took a somewhat relatable character and the understanding of what he's kind of going through, and now you've just placed it into something that I can't even fathom, nor does this feel like really realistic anymore.
I want to ask you a question, sort of swerving into a slightly different lane, but still on the same track.
Yeah.
Do you think Ralph Macchio's inclusion in this movie provided anything valuable at all?
No.
Because I think this movie has another big struggle of it in that it feels like it can't decide whether or not it wants to be an entry point for some people. Whereas like, okay, this is a Karate Kid movie that you can jump into and not have any attachment to the other films at all, but still like feel the tone and like the sense and the narrative of like what it's going for. Or do we want this to be like totally reliant on the other films and the TV show or whatever? So we're going to bring in Ralph Macchio. We're going to have a lot of mentions of Mr. Miyagi. We're even going to have like Johnny Lawrence in at the end. This movie, I feel like, needs to pick one or the other if it's going to choose one. It's either got to be like totally adherent to the previous films or not really at all.
This movie is going off of what seems to be kind of like the cliche thing to do now of member berries. You saw it in No Way Home or Far From Home or whatever the hell it was. There seems to be this this is where it's like irking. Like Okay, I agree. Either have LaRusso in it the whole time, right? Or keep him out and we can allude to other, or just have it be its own origin, right? To me, what they were doing was we have this demographic that has their kids now. They may not want to bring this in because we failed with the other 5. Cobra Kai's kind of cool, but that obviously is for an older audience.
Right. And a television show that gets like 6 seasons obviously has like a fan base that is invested.
But I think it's like, Netflix picked them up and it's had commercial success, stemming from the YouTube channel that it kind of came from. And it's got like, I'm sure if you'd seen The Karate Kid from 10 years ago, you probably would have watched Cobra Kai had you had the chance, I'm assuming. Or at least thought it was a fun idea to check out. Yeah,
at the very least, it is an interesting curio. Because I've seen clips of the show on YouTube just out of like sheer curiosity.
Right, and you have no attachment to it. It's not like
none whatsoever.
Put yourself in like, oh, I know that the background, the history of this. This is kind of like a fun. Hey, we're bearing up some bones out of the ashes, right? This movie is bells and whistles with Daniel LaRusso, and it's like we're seeing it more so with like, let's get both kids and dads, right? Let's get both because like we can, the Spider-Man thing, right? You have the new audience coming in. They're obviously going to be checking it out for the action, new story. We also have the older generation we can pull in because it's Maguire. And I think like his inclusion in this freaking story was so unnecessary. Like, I don't think he did anything outside of provide more exposition and essentially tell us how it's going to end before we even get to the fight.
Right. It feels like it's attempting to offer legitimacy to this as an entry into the franchise, when to me it feels more like it's just shoehorned in for the sake of recognizability. Yeah. Like, we have to have people go and see this movie and have Daniel in it to be like a recognizable figure where they can point at the screen and go like, oh, he's here, so that must mean it's a real Karate Kid movie, unlike the Jaden Smith one.
Yeah. This whole franchise, yes, I mean, I don't know what to say because like this whole franchise to me is just like, it's what you've seen with some other spinoffs where it's we took our shot with one, like trying to do it again, didn't work. Wait 10 to 15 years, we'll try it again. Yeah. And it feels like, all right, at what point are we connecting it with this or that? Like, is this just its own entity? Is this part of a timeline? Like, are we remaking it?
And is this going to be the last one? Because this also feels like it kind of fails at being a proper, like, meaningful conclusion if what they wanted to do was, like, a continuum, right? Because if you're watching this movie and it's the last one in the entirety of the franchise, it feels just more like a lame epilogue than it does a proper, conclusive entry in the narrative, right?
To some extent. I think it's always hard, though, because you're dating 40 years. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no... The characters, there's no...
I guess I wouldn't be as hard on it if the TV show didn't exist, is my feeling.
Yes. To me, I feel like this is a one-off. To me, I feel like this is kind of like what Rogue One was at the time, before all the properties started coming out with all the content behind it. You're not Star Wars. Rogue One kind of predates A New Hope.
The original, yeah.
Right? That, to me, felt like a one-off story that builds or adds to the franchise, right? Now, what they've done with that, though, they've got a whole bunch of content out, Andors out there. A lot of it is building up the Star Wars timeline, and because they have the property rights and the Disney Plus, they can pump all this out. To me, this movie felt like a one-off that is its own story that fits somewhat within the universe of Karate Kid.
Sure.
So that's where I don't think that, and I don't even know after the first Karate Kid that they're like, we're making a sequel to that. This one, I don't know where they can obviously go somewhere. They'll come up with some bullshit story and just make a second film. I don't know how much success this is having, but
it's making an okay amount of money. So I looked it up, and it had a $45 million budget, and it made $90 million. So I think it kind of like, if you take marketing costs into consideration and the fact that it came out at the end of May, kind of broke even. But if it makes like an okay amount on streaming, if people are like, oh, I've just finished Cobra Kai, what else is there for me? Then I feel like it could be a sort of sleeper hit in a way. Yeah, let's talk about Ben Wang, because I think he's one of the things in this movie that I appreciate the most.
Yeah, same here.
I like his performance in this.
I thought he's very charismatic.
I think he's a very charming. I don't want to say kid because he's like, I'm pretty sure 25.
He's 25.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
But it's again that Tom Holland thing of like, you look like you're 13 years old.
Yes.
And I think he does a pretty effective job of being a sympathetic main character, even if he is sort of the standard kind of meek, shy, fish out of water type that we were discussing in the previous film's discussion, where it's like, okay, I've seen this type of character before, but I don't hate it in this environment. I think it's doing it in a way that is compelling enough, and I think the performance of that really kind of drives me into it. It's sort of what got me interested in this movie in the first place, is like, oh, if I'm going to attach myself to anything happening, it's going to be to him. Yeah. He's, I think, selling me on this for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah.
He is charming. He's charismatic. You know, he does a good job with the fish out of water element of it.
Right.
You know, and
I think if there's anything to kind of complain about with him, it's the way his character's written.
It's not his fault.
It's not his fault, no.
No. And I'm not gonna blame him for like, hey, guess what? You're going 20 hours away from your home and your brother's dead. And
right.
You messed that up royally.
So I'm going to need you to walk into this pizza shop and ask for stuffed crust, where they will verbally lambaste you for asking.
It almost feels racist.
I didn't want to say it, but it kind of does.
Why not? It does. It's 100%.
And even before he asked for stuffed crust, fucking Victor turns around and is like, can I help you?
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Do you know where you're at right now?
Yeah.
Chinatown's that way, bucko.
He walked. I should say more of, I applauded him with how well he handled it. And it was taking me out that I was like, all right, would this happen in real life? Like, I feel like there's an argument starting here. Like, he's just like taking it on the chin, like, oh yeah, I get this all the time, you know?
Right.
Like, he's been here for 12 minutes.
Like, is this movie saying that, like, guys who are owners of, like, New York pizza shops are just, like, inherently kind of narrow-sighted that way?
I think it's more of just to set up some conflict and for you to understand that he's going to catch gruff wherever he goes.
Sure. It is still insane how, like, he walks in and they're very, like, caricature-y New York types.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, what do you mean you want a fucking stuffed crust? You want a stuffed crust? Go to fucking New Jersey. Go to Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Yes. It was wild.
It's I get that it's supposed to be comedic. It is like almost a little mean for
a little mean. It's racist. Like, it was not like, it might have supposed to come out as like, we're giving this kid a hard time. Like, it came out as like, hey, wrong spot to walk into.
Right. Like, where the fuck do you think you are, bucko?
And then for the girl to stick up for him, I was like, yeah. Paint by numbers, I guess, is how I feel about it.
Yeah, very paint by numbers. I like him. I like the performance from Joshua Jackson for the most part. I think he might be the best one in this movie. It feels like he's the one that is maybe the adult that doesn't feel like he's either phoning it in or like doesn't want to be there.
He's very wholesome. Like, there's a protective, there's an edge around him. He's boxer, had his daughter way too young, kind of gave up his dreams to own a pizza shop. So I mean,
like well-meaning working class dad.
So like some of the things that happen, but I mean, their relationship as it builds feels very genuine. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't offer anything in the way of seeming, I don't want to say flawed, obviously, with the backstory he is, but he never comes across as being that way, right?
No, it doesn't feel like he has like a malicious bone in his body or like something that is like a darker secret.
He's always like the wise,
which I kind of like. Yeah.
Well, I think he's a very like, he's what he is. He's a TV dad. Mm-hmm. The sitcom dad, he's Boy Meets World's dad.
Right.
Or anytime you walk in, he might have a joke for you, kind of clever smile, but like, this is really what the world's like, and give you some wisdom. And it's always like it's a very wholesome experience where he means well. And there's like, he's a boxer in this thing. I'm like, the edge isn't there for me. But I thought the way that he was portraying the character, I mean, I thought he was great. I mean, I really liked him as, like, I don't need to see brazen New York dude that's going to try to beat everyone's ass. Like,
right.
He gives you, I love my daughter. And then as soon as he kind of hit you with that, and then, I gave up my dreams, like, oh, I could see you're probably a little bit more grounded, and this is why you are a little bit more mellow, in terms of, hey, getting into fights, getting into scruffs, dealing with ne'er-do-wells, like stuff like that, right?
He seems very kind of like edgeless.
Yes.
Which is why it's a little confusing why the conflict of this movie is that he owes money to loan sharks. Like, what would have gotten him in that position in the first place? The only thing I can think of is that they asked him to take a fall at, like, a boxing thing, and then he didn't. And so then they, like, want their money back from, like, betting against him. But even then, I feel like that would be a little bit more explained, especially in a movie like this where everything is kind of, like, brought to the light.
Yeah, I don't know, because there are some concepts that they're dancing around that they're still, like, our demographics, 9 to 13. So I think is this PG or PG-13?
I want to say it's PG. Let me make sure.
You don't want to, especially given that there's, you got mobile apps with gambling and stuff. Like, I'm sure that the studio's like, hey, like, you guys can have this, but I don't want that. Couple concepts, because I had that thought too about he probably owes him money for taking.
It's PG-13. This feels like a PG movie.
It teeters the line.
I think someone calls someone an asshole or something.
Yes.
Like the daughter calls her dad an asshole.
I would go with the brother angle of why this is PG-13. That's pretty heavy with how they set it up.
Right, with like the knife and yeah. It's very
you gotta remember
dramatized.
too. Remember from it doesn't have to be necessarily what is being portrayed on film. It could also be the concepts of what's being talked about. And so like death in that light.
You talk about your brother dying, it might be hard to swing a PG rating.
And it's kind of like as least graphic as you could have for a PG-13 movie. For a PG movie, I'd be like, that's very...
Right.
Because now you got 6-year-olds coming in here. You're like...
I mean, that being said, though, I feel like you could take like a 10-year-old to this movie and it'd be totally fine.
I brought Preston to it. I mean, he's 8,
Right.
Like, he walked away unimpressed, but...
That's the most scathing indictment against this movie. Is Preston's thoughts on it.
Well, he's the demographic that they're going for. I mean, it's like, I don't know what 15-year-old kid's gonna want to see this versus like the new Batman.
Right, yeah.
Like, this is very, like, once again, we kind of talk about, like, the marketing campaign and the demographic that they're aiming this for. This seems a little bit of trying to catch too much. You're fishing with a hole in the net.
They're casting, like, too wide of a net and not catching as many of a specific type of audience that they want.
Right, because I think you isolate some of those younger kids. Like, if you're taking a very strict mother, she might not be like, it's PG-13, you're not seeing it, right? Mm-hmm. When it's almost a 10, 9, 8-year-old. I think 8's kind of on the cusp.
Right.
But, like, that's ultimately, if you take out that brother scene, guess what you get to do? You get to reel in all those fish.
Right.
And instead they kind of, I like hat on a hat. That's a great way of describing it.
The technical aspects of this movie, I thought, peaked at the fight scenes. I think that some of the fight scenes are choreographed well. I'm not saying that they're shot totally fantastic or anything, especially like that last rooftop scene felt a little choppy to me. But the alley fight scene, I think, was maybe visually the highlight of this movie when he's like fighting the 3 dudes in the alleyway. That to me was this movie feeling like it was its last attempt at trying anything, because it had Ben Wang do...
Not the last, because like you saw, that leads to the whole buildup of the relationship between...
maybe not the last one, but like one that maybe stands out to me the most.
Yes.
Is because Ben Wang is doing this sort of like Jackie Chan-esque choreographed, like sort of like flowing fight scene where like, maybe he stumbles and trips, but he like flows into the next thing and then like gets it back on the villains attacking him.
Yeah.
Like, that to me was, I think, the most dynamic portion of this movie by far. Yeah. And that sticks out as like, this is where like the movie has the most juice.
That's where essentially for me it started picking up.
Right.
There was about 30 to it felt like 30 to 40 minutes, I don't really know, of just needless exposition on setting up the relationships and, having him seeing how much of a fish out of water he is. To when it got to that point, I was like, oh, wait, here we go.
Yeah, and that's also the same instance in when he decides he's going to train Victor.
Yeah. And so the movie kind of takes like that next step, like you're entering almost into act 2, right? Like, hey, like they form a bond. Now it is this kid really going to fight, or is he training this guy? Is this what it leads to? Do we get like a Rocky 5 scenario going on? Like, how is this going to play out? It was also fun thinking about like that moment, this movie, while it is Karate Kid, and if you take the Miyagi, Daniel LaRusso approach in a fictional term of applying it to Jackie Chan with, what's his name? Ben
Wang. Li Fong in the movie.
Li Fong, and an actual realist, or in reality of like, hey, I can no longer do these stunts, and this is kind of like my work of being like, fighting with realistic events going on, or however you want to put it. I mean, like stunt work, right? Jackie Chan when in the 90s.
Yeah.
And saying, all right, Ben, you're going to be my predecessor. You are now stepping into this. So like this movie, like I was kind of like, all right,
it
like
really,
if we get some more of that.
It felt like this should have been the jumping off point of like, yeah, Ben Wang can maybe take over for this type of movie.
Yeah. And that, well, and like I say this type, but these types of movies, like he is now like, hey, Ben Wang's going to be in this next thing where it's like him doing all this choreographics, all these stunts, right? But dealing like how Jackie Chan would do it. And I was like, oh, it's a passing of the torch.
Right, exactly.
So,
and it feels like that this is what this movie should have been.
Yes, like that would have been so much more, to me, like awesome, right? Like it would have been like, all right, I don't need to have the ending the way it happens. Like we've seen this fucking movie a million times.
Especially when this kid's performance is good enough to where like, yeah, I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. I mean, and you get to like some of those elements that pop up, but they just kind of, they touch on it, right? It's never...
Yeah, it almost feels too much like a reference point instead of like what the movie should be anchored on.
Yes, and that's where like that alley fight scene was to me where they had the most meat, and then they pushed it aside.
Yeah, they pushed it off the grill, much like Jim did when he was drunk in Fateful Findings, or as you coined it, unknown information.
Yes,
I'm impressed at myself for squeezing in a Fateful Findings reference
every pod.
This movie it doesn't feel like it does Ben Wang any justice of like, yeah, this should be a passing of the torch. It also just, I don't know, like the standard issue way it falls into like, we're just gonna do the Karate Kid plotline but like worse. In that like there's a miscommunication problem between like him and the girl, and then there is also
there you go. See, now you're talking about the miscommunication. That's how you flub that.
That's how you absolutely fumble.
At least the other one we talked about. This one was just like, oh, of course.
Because I was totally ready for this movie to be more so about like, oh yeah, he's got like the love interest, but also like he's establishing a relationship with her father that is like pretty unique and not seen in a whole lot of movies. Where it's like, yeah, you're the potential boyfriend for my daughter. How about you help me train in this fucking boxing match? I mean, it's like that could be interesting.
Yes, like the family dynamic that's going on there.
And then it just falls apart, and it's like, okay, I guess we're going into like standard issue territory of like montage and training and reestablishing the relationship, and then he wins the tournament. And it's like, that's just fucking boring.
Yes.
That's just boring shit to me. And it doesn't help that a lot of this movie is like, the lighting's pretty bland. It's shot in a pretty straightforward way.
Yes.
Like there's really not much going on. We talked about the framing of the original movie and how like, yeah, there's these like elegant transitional moments of like Daniel on the boat and like him on the beach and like him entering the dojo, and like this movie really doesn't have that, and it's using so many shots repeatedly throughout. It's like there's the shot of like the bad guy kicking the guy in the head, I want to say like 2 or 3 times in like different instances in this movie. They just reuse shots so lazily in a movie that already feels like it's rushing to get through it because it's embarrassed to keep going.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I always have a hard time with, because I don't know if this guy would, whoever directed this thing, being like, I don't think I mentioned the director, Jonathan Entwistle. Oh God, what else had he done?
Well, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Hold on. Let me. He doesn't.
Let me go on Letterboxd, because Letterboxd.
Well, now it's a race to see because I got my IMDb.
Right, you got your
And you
IMDb.
got-
I got my Letterboxd. Oh, he's got a picture. The only other thing that it says he's directed is this thing called Human Beings, which is a short film that came out 2012 and doesn't have great ratings. Imagine that. He doesn't even get a proper profile on Letterboxd, which is
No, he's got
very
one.
telling.
I don't know.
The most fun thing about him is his name.
Hold on, let me see if you wrote something.
He's got a name that
No.
sounds similar to, I think, another filmmaker. Maybe
No, I mean I could just be. I thought I looked.
could just be Huff and Glue. Yeah.
Well, I thought I looked him up, or I was like, oh, that's that guy from. But I'm probably thinking of something else that I'm
Right.
just associating with.
Yeah, no, this is pretty much the only thing this guy has done of note.
No,
And
this is all. Not trash, but this feels very much like PowerPoint slides.
this is like,
We're gonna go for something that's gonna be flashy, not necessarily edgy, but like ADD audience, of like
yeah,
constantly like choom, 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 and different fonts, different lights, different strokes are all gonna help out keep you engaged because the story is like so fucking boring.
this is like if I get like a McDonald's meal and I'm like walking down the sidewalk eating my McDonald's and I'm like, it's no fucking Culver's, but at least I'm like eating something. And then halfway through my meal, I drop it on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, I guess this was maybe for nothing. I don't know. Did I get anything of substance from this?
Right.
Time will tell.
Right.
And that's exactly how I feel about this movie. It's just like kind of a butt whistle,
Flash in the pan.
a small little fart in what otherwise would be like a nice pristine, maybe not nice pristine bathroom, but like a serviceable restroom at a gas station.
I don't know because like I am under the. I just don't think the franchise has really offered much outside of the first one and maybe Cobra Kai.
Sure.
So it's much more of the same to me.
Yeah, it's not surprising. It's not doing anything really new. I mean, it has like nuggets of things that are interesting and could be something, but any sort of like potential that it had, whatever, it kind of washed it away. It waxed on, waxed off it away.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
Because I don't think he realized what he was working with. I mean, I think he cared more about the presentation with this thing than he did the substance.
Yeah, this thing seemed very like I don't know if like focus grouped is the right term. It feels like it was kind of run through a series of filters, and then whatever came out at the end of it is a result of everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you could almost envision a scenario in which like Joshua Jackson was more prominent, and it gets the third act starts, and it's not like we're getting Daniel LaRusso in here or Jackie Chan. It's this kid that's going to work to take out someone down the road, right? Like you don't even have to put him in a dojo or a karate gym. Like you could have him fighting the guy, the loan shark, at the end and said, "This ends now," right?
Right.
Like that's your bully. That's your sticking up for the guy, playing some effects where he is still continuing karate. Because my biggest qualm with this goddamn film is that this kid stops doing everything. We don't know how good he is, and then in 10 days they're gonna have him take down the 5 boroughs champion. With that kid so effed up. You can't imagine that you can just in 10 days figure out how to beat that kid.
You took a kid who was like so uninteresting and just like lacking any sort of pizzazz.
He is your standard cutout of
Aramis Knight as Connor Day.
Teenage bully.
What the most watered down version of it. Like you take a distilled version of it and that's what you get.
Like they're on the subway and he's just like, I'm going to sucker punch you.
Yeah.
And then it's like, this kid is the best. And he literally has no lines in this thing.
I don't feel any tension. I don't feel any interest.
No.
Whenever Johnny Lawrence was on screen in the first movie, it's like, something interesting is going to happen.
I'm wondering what he's going to do this time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how is he going to pick on him?
And even if he doesn't do anything, he's just a good screen presence. Like, fucking William Zabka is a good actor, whereas this kid
in that movie,
I mean, I'm not too familiar with his other bodies of work.
I just saw the first. I will probably watch Cobra Kai at some point when I'm like, I need to start something.
Right.
But just him in that for the first like 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I could see how he kind of fell off.
Whereas this kid feels so lost in everything. Like, it was just so bland. It was just very bland. I don't want to keep repeating the same words over and over again, but this movie feels like a repeat of words that we have discussed for other mediocre movies.
Yeah.
Like, what else is there to talk about? I'm honestly fine if we just go into ratings right now.
Oh.
Because we're almost at the 2-hour mark, and
I'm fine with it.
We've got questions from the previous episode that I want to touch on.
Listen, we could beat this thing over the head. I had a great... I'm not patting myself on the back with it because you say it about a bunch of films, but I was like, this is a fun movie, not a good movie. I won't hold...
It had some stuff.
I'm not going to hold anything against it. Like, I like Joshua Jackson. He is a major part of this thing, right? It is member berries once you get to LaRusso coming back. So while whatever exposition or whatever the hell you want to call his little segment was, it's fun to see him on screen doing Karate Kid stuff, right? You got Jackie Chan, who is very charismatic. He's still Jackie Chan. You know, like, you're not watching him again. He's washed up, right? He's still got the smile. He's still got some jokes and some quips. Like, that was fun. Now, given the context of what's going on and how mundane the story got, and that it was just kind of it was a wash at that point. Yeah, not great. But the training sequence and stuff, and then I won't knock. I mean, they get on a helicopter with a camera and they're doing everything over the tower. And I'm guessing that was a real tower, and they had all those extras up there, and they had a ring on it, right? Because do you think that was like, and it's genuine, like CGI'd? Because I was watching, I'm like,
I read that most of the principal photography was in Montreal.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of like what seemed to be location shooting was in a physical space. Nothing felt like too much of a set, maybe save for like the pizza shop and like their apartment. Like,
yeah. And so, I mean, I guess my point is, like, you know, you get up to that final sequence, like, there is some build up just with the camera work alone, with kind of building up the environment.
There's like a small sense of finality and like this heading towards something conclusive. I think I would maybe give it a pass more if it just wasn't the same plot.
I'm agreeing with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's much more of the same.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, we just had pizza 3 nights in a row. Like, well, let's get this type of pizza. It's like, no, let's not. We've had pizza 3 nights in a row. You know?
What would you rate this movie?
The pros with it is I'm hoping that the Ben Wang character kind of morphs into this Jackie Chan. Like, I'm hoping I'm calling my shot here with it. I thought he was very charismatic, good with the choreography. He can move well, you know. Some of the alley scenes, while it felt a lot of smash cuts with it, right? Like, Jackie Chan, when he does his stuff, feels very tracking, right? Tracking shot, one take. This one definitely felt a little bit more spliced up, but
you can tell the skill and the presence is there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that as he goes along, we get more into those one shots where we get to see this alley fight. And it's like, that was 3 minutes of them, like kind of John Wick, you know?
Yeah.
Where you're watching this stuff and it's like, all right, that takes a while to learn. That's really impressive. It's much more impressive than when you're just cutting everything and you're splicing it. But I think the kid's got some potential. So it's kind of nice to see him in this thing and learn who he is. The Joshua Jackson, I liked his character quite a bit. You know, very wholesome. I say grounds, but it makes this movie a little bit. I felt a little bit more emotionally attached with him on screen.
There's something to grab onto that feels fresh and engaging.
Yeah, not necessarily with Ben Wang, but the cons of it, much more of the same. Pretty point A to point B. I will say, me and Preston, we got home, and I said, "What did you think of the film?" He said, "It was all right." I said, "Did you like it?" He goes, "Yeah, it was fun. You know, whatever." I go, "Well, did you know who he was going to win?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how'd you know?" He goes, "Because he's like the superhero in the film." And I was like, okay. So that lets you know that even this little kid that's watched this thing had no tension whatsoever. The stakes never got to be above his head. Mm-hmm. Where in the first one, I was asking him, like, after LaRusso got hurt, I was kind of like, "Do you think he's going to?" He's like, "I don't know. I think so." You know?
Yeah, there's like some room for doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a little bit of like he's probably gonna overcome the odds, but like you know, so this one never had it, and it's just I feel like it's a little bit of a miss, but also it's what are you gonna do? This is a money grab movie, and they're trying to get asses in seats, and yeah, it's kind of flashy, I guess. So, but I 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm in the same sort of vicinity as you are. We feel very similarly about this movie for very, very much of the same reasons, I would say. This is a movie that it's one of those frustrating things to talk about because you can see the potential. You can see where they could have gone, the different paths they could have taken with this as a movie in which it would have made it more interesting, engaging, had more thought put into it, obviously like put it on a clear path. We talked about this being like a jumping off point or like a passing the torch for Ben Wang as like a Jackie Chan type figure that can go forward in other movies after this. This should have been like his calling card.
Yes.
And it just kind of feels like he gets lost in the shuffle of like the confusion of what this movie does or doesn't want to do. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting, the dynamic between him and Joshua Jackson. I thought there was some juice there. That was, I think, the most that this movie had going for it as far as like a unique structure that felt fresh to the franchise. And then after the halfway, I think it's literally 45 minutes into this movie, is when it feels like it goes into really tired, really stale, really uninteresting territory in which this movie feels simultaneously confused and uninterested in what it wants to be.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, this thing isn't. I'm not telling anyone to see this.
Yeah.
Did you get upset with them explaining how the final move's gonna work? Like repeatedly bashing you over the head with what's it called? How do you do it? And then like this is how you execute trick. Like there was no,
because it just happens.
Well, they build it up. Like they literally like
they build it up as something he's gonna do, and then he does it, and then that's kind of it. Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's like you're gonna do this, and we're gonna have a code word for this, and then you're gonna because he's seen this before. This is gonna happen, and then it literally just happens.
Yeah.
Like there's no like even that point alone, there could have been some adversity shown where the kid's like they do it and then he tries to counter again and the kid stops him and it's like they both look at it, like him and LaRusso and it's like, what do we do? And then you get some creative like it bugged the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Like you called it as soon as he does it against the kid the first time or the brother shows him how to do it. It's like, oh, here's your crane kick.
Yeah. This is going to be the move that defines the tournament or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's called way too much. It's called way too early. And it's just projected in a way where it's like I would get the same thing if I read the Wikipedia summary of this movie.
Yes. Yeah, so. That was like this movie's got a lot of grievances, but that was the biggest one I had was like, all right, we're not even like surprising the audience with this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Here it is. It's going to happen. Oh, it happened. There it is. There it goes. Okay, we're done.
We got some questions.
Yes, we do.
That we can go over. So these are questions that we got from last episode that we didn't have time because our whole discussion was an hour and a half long.
Wow.
It was maybe the longest we've ever talked about a movie, like a singular movie, outside of like the trilogy talk for Spider-Man. Because I think the first one was like an hour 45 or something, and then the other two were hour 30. So we got some questions. If you guys want to submit any questions to us, you can do so via any like messages through Instagram, Facebook, whichever YouTube community. If you want to comment on anything, leave those for us, and then we can touch on them in future episodes. Just like Drew left some questions for us.
All right.
And I'm going to kind of break them up in between other people's questions, so we're not getting all of his at once.
Okay.
So this is a good first question. What are your guys' top 5 most anticipated movies for the rest of the year? And then he lists his. Weapons, 28 Years Later, Marty Supreme, The Running Man, Roof Man. I don't even know if I know what Roof Man is. And also I'll say this, we don't have to do top 5
Just name a couple.
Yeah, like
you name two of them.
Right. I am very much looking forward to 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
I actually just recently watched the first movie and really
Gideon's
enjoyed
brother
it.
would love to talk about that.
Yeah, he would. And honestly, like, it's one of those things where, like, I know there's movies coming out this year that I'm looking forward to, but I'm not going to remember them unless someone mentions them. So, like, him mentioning Marty Supreme.
Yes.
One of the new Safdie brother movies that's coming out with Tim Chan.
That and the Smashing Machine, I think both are.
Yep.
Now,
So,
like, it's hard to say, like, top 5. But I could say some movies I'm excited to come out.
Yeah, like those two for sure. Is it Benny Safdie that's doing Smashing Machine and Josh Safdie that's doing Marty Supreme, I think that's right.
I think, yeah, Josh is doing Marty Supreme, so Benny's doing Smashing Machine.
Right. 28 Years Later. One that he didn't mention that I am kind of intrigued by is I think it's called like The Long Walk.
Okay.
That Stephen King adaptation of like one of his stories where like it's kind of dystopian. These like young men have to like walk on this road and like the last one standing like wins. Like they have to keep walking until like one of them's left. That looks interesting to me. It's from the director of the Hunger Games movies.
I'm trying to
Francis Lawrence.
Get to because nothing like comes off the top of my head.
Right.
I'm trying to see the.
You have to scramble to Google upcoming movies.
I'm just going to like kind of coming out because I know 28 Years Later. I think I'm fairly big on.
Yeah.
Like if I do have a chance to watch the other two, I've seen them. I should preface it that way. It's just been a long time, and the trailer for it looks fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best trailers I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and the lady that's just kind of reading off the
poem.
Yes,
I think it's a man. It's like a 1912 like old timey recording.
Yeah. Because it reminds me of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Yeah, very haunting.
Superman. I think I could say I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Superman.
Eddington.
Fucking yes, Eddington is huge for me.
Like,
especially after rewatching Beau is Afraid and upping my rating.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
We're Beau is Afraid stands.
Absolutely.
I mean, my God.
In this house,
yes.
At least in this room. I don't know.
Why don't you
Megan
sit down?
was too
You're just
hot
gonna just tell her it's anxiety manifested.
I told her it was a simple movie about a man going to see his mother.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's how you reel her in.
Hooked and sinker.
After that, just kind of going through.
Are you looking forward to Jurassic World Afterbirth?
No. How would you describe that? Low expectations?
What about F1? I'm kind of excited for F1. After Top Gun Maverick was a good movie.
We are just putting it in the stands, or a sense of excited to come out.
Yeah,
like not necessarily top 5.
I don't want to like restrict us.
F1 is also there's a little. I guess I am nervous that the director is. I think will be taken care of. The story's what makes me nervous.
Yeah,
I feel like it could be very milky. You know,
it could be. It could have some milk to it, but
yeah. So
I'm still gonna try to see it in IMAX if I can, because it seems like a movie that would thrive in that environment.
I did see a one I'm not excited about is Black Phone 2. One I am excited about that I did catch a trailer on that I'm very curious about.
The Smurfs.
That I saw before Friendship. I also saw that one before Friendship. No, I didn't. I think I finally saw the Smurfs one before the Karate Kid
Yeah,
movie.
because it played for me.
Oh, did it?
It's one of the worst looking movies I've ever seen.
I did not. I was talking to Scotty the whole time, so I didn't even watch it.
Good. It's fucking trash.
Well, I know you sent me those snaps, and I just clicked through it because I was like, I'm not watching this trailer.
Kyle, why are you forcing me to watch
it's
this
like,
right
it's,
now?
It's a Karate Kid, whatever, with Jackie Chan. It's that one doesn't exist. It never will. This movie will probably never exist to me either.
So what's the actual movie?
Tron Ares.
I am curious about that.
I really like the Tron that came out with Daft Punk.
Oh, Tron Legacy?
Yes. I That had a little bit, like, when I saw it in theaters, I was like, I saw that thing in theaters.
I saw it in theaters too. I don't remember a thing.
They had the
about
3D
it.
glasses, but I had my glasses, so I had to put them up. So like there was this like right here,
Yeah.
so I had to watch it like this, and then if I went like this, it would just normalize it. So I would. It was like one of those things where I'm like thinking way too much about my viewing experience.
For those listening, Matt gave a expression that I can describe as like the Kubrick stare, kind of.
Or like the Nicholson.
Yeah,
and,
the Nicholson in the green sweater and the Shining.
Yes. The last one I will say too, Predator Badlands. I forgot that was coming out this year.
I watched Predator Killer of Killers, the animated one that's on streaming. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I heard it was good.
I liked it. It's if you like want like a nice, quick, fun watch.
Yes.
Throw that on and like kill 90 minutes, and it's a good time.
It'll just go by. Yeah, perfect.
Go by really smooth. One that I'll mention before we move on to the next question. Him. Have you seen a trailer for that? The football movie.
Oh, that's right.
The trailer starts out and it seems like it's this shitty football commercial, and then it is very much not.
No, Jordan Peele taking an approach. Very interesting too, with everything that's kind of going on with the social climate, with the NIL, and just how things are really changing from how professional sports in general, I feel like, used to be. Mm-hmm. Now with all the marketing and this money, and very interested how he dives into the brain of this. So I am excited about that coming out too. I don't know if I'll see that in theaters or not, because I like the Peele movies to just kind of be on my recliner.
Right. Well, I think he's just producing it. I don't think he's directing it.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, it seems like a movie that has his name written all over
Jordan.
it. Yeah.
I feel like this is. I don't know how much producers have, and I asked a buddy of mine one time, and he said it can literally be as little as you threw money at this thing and walked away.
Ava Longoria giving $5 million to John Wick. Yeah.
Yes, as so much to be on the set sitting next to the director. Mm-hmm. So while this is produced by him, I feel like he is going to have his hands all over this thing. What was the other movie that we watched where we were kind of wondering how? Oh, we just watched this movie not too long ago too, and it was how much of Warfare.
Yeah, how much of this was Mendoza? How much of it was Garland? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I'm curious. I hope it's something similar to that experience of very much whoever's directing this touch on it, but Peele, you can see helping him through and making sure he's not necessarily doing the right stuff, but offering advice.
Cool. Well, next question comes from Joanne.
Okay.
My mom. Thanks, Mom. I love you. What are your must-have road trip snacks and best vacation spot you've ever been to? Road trip snacks and vacation spots. Okay. So I can attest to vacation spot. I think in recent memory, I've taken some of the most memorable, fun, experiential trips. One of them being Yosemite. Mm-hmm. I've been there twice, and both times was beautiful. And I would say maybe that's my number one, specifically because it feels like an achievement. Like, you go to Yosemite, you see the views, but you also go hiking. Yeah. You kind of test yourself with the elevation and like how much physical exertion you're willing to go through to see like these views and like go to these spots and like enjoy nature. And I'm someone who, if you've seen me, you know how pale as shit I am, and I don't get outside that often.
Right.
So for me to do that, I think is pretty noteworthy and substantial.
Yeah.
And then the second one I would say is going to New York. The few times that I've been.
What's another achievement, just on a different level?
An achievement in that, like, I'm someone who is steeped in comfortability. I don't like changing up my environment too much.
Pale as shit. Doesn't get outside much.
Right. And I enjoy the routine of it all, and going to New York is kind of a chaotic experience.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's fun. It's interesting. If you have it a little bit curated for you, you can have a good time. Mm-hmm. So those are my two. And as far as like road trip snack, honestly, I'm not like real picky when it comes to that. Like, if you give me like chips or candy or like fucking Hostess desserts or whatever, like donut holes, like fucking cereal maybe, like anything will go, man. Jerky, like it's hard to pick just one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Difficult.
What would you say?
Favorite vacation spot? that we've gone to, I don't really, I'd say vacation a lot, at least like outside of Michigan. So like in Michigan, you know, camping and stuff. There's one of my favorite spots that we went to is for the baby moon. We went to Asheville, North Carolina, and we did like a waterfall, kind of waterfall tour. So like me and Jasmine are really big on waterfalls. So we went to 3 different waterfalls, and the first one you went to, you could like get under the waterfall, and it had like this kind of its own pond.
Yeah, a little alcove.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And another one was just kind of like trickling waterfall. So like we were huge on waterfalls, and we saw about 3 or 4 of them, and that was a very lovely experience. And that was kind of like you know, she was pregnant, and you know, it's a 15-hour drive there. So I mean, it's like testing a lot of like, you know, how's the relationship doing, all that stuff. And it was just a very enjoyable, memorable experience. So really like that. We had a great time. And then another time, maybe not vacation, but Ludington Macker, back, and I want to say it was 2009 or 2010. It was me and a couple buddies. We went up there and just had fun playing basketball, and then we were going back to the campsite at night, raising hell. So
nice.
Road trip snacks. I'm kind of in your boat. Like there are certain things where I'm like, all right, you know, I'd like that. Twizzlers come to mind. I will say I have to pick up Preston in Indiana sometimes. So that's like a 3-hour drive. Sometimes I got to get up at like, you know, I got to be on the road at 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. So my favorite thing to do is I get, you know, big back, a breakfast biscuit or kind of McGriddle, whatever it is from the Speedway. You get 2 of those, sausage, egg, cheese, right?
Man, they're delicious. For me, that's dangerous because it immediately goes through me.
Oh yeah, like I got 3 hours because I get to the Starbucks and it's like unwinding. But you do 2 of those with your jalapeno Cheetos, and then
okay, you're a jalapeno Cheeto.
I have to have it with that
Cheeto kind of guy.
I only get it with the sandwich. Like if I get those sandwich, like I will pick that up with the sandwiches, and then it's usually like an energy drink because I think the coffee kind of just overwhelms the taste. But like,
right,
you get like a fruit punch energy drink, you know, 6 a.m. So that's like my favorite. I will say that we've done that. Jasmine had to come with me one morning. And I was like, "Nah, stop here. I got to get this.
I got to get my regulars."
Yeah.
Our next question, going back to Drew. This is the second one. After the success of his most recent movie, he should have put success in air quotes. Should The Weeknd quit the music industry and become a full-on actor?
I think he should just stop in entertainment in general.
I think he needs to leave Earth and live on Mars. Because it seems like that's where he wants to live.
He's treading towards Kanye territory.
I don't know if anyone can tread towards Kanye territory. Have you seen I'm guessing you have.
All the crap that's coming out with him. I know he's insane, you know, but like the Weeknd had an HBO series, right?
The Idol
got canceled because he sexualized it, and he wanted to be doing all the sex scenes.
He big dicked Sean Levinson out of his own show and was like, "Hey, this is my show now, and it's going to be about how I get to fuck Lily Rose Depp."
Yeah,
and then that was lambasted online and like with critics and shit. Like everyone was like, "Yo, this is dog shit." Like you were in Uncut Gems for like 5 minutes, and now you think you can be fucking like Bryan Cranston? Like what's going on here?
That's everything. Like he is. I don't know, what movie did he do?
So he came out with a movie this year called Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is kind of a tie-in to his newest album that came out of the same name.
Did I hear about this?
Maybe. I went and saw this movie with Drew.
Oh, God.
We were the only 2 in the theater, so we could fucking riff the entire time. And I had such a fun experience watching that movie with him, like us getting to joke and like laugh and point things out while the movie was going on. Movie's fucking dog shit. It is absolutely trash. It's maybe one of the worst films I've seen this year. And The Weeknd cannot act. He cannot perform in a narrative sense. He doesn't have an idea of like what storytelling entails. And it's just a fucking big ego stroke. It's all it feels like is a big ego stroke for him as a musician, him as an artist.
Yeah.
And
Kanye.
It's just so hollow and vain that it's not even worth watching unless you're going into it to make fun of, which I know you're not someone who like ironically watches stuff.
No.
So for you, I will just say like, don't even bother with
No, I
it.
already said I wasn't. Like, I heard you say riff, and I said I'm out.
Yeah.
I
like,
can't watch these. I don't have that.
And it's going to be like a complete waste for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It's like unknown information.
Barry Keoghan and, well, hey now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Barry Keoghan and Jenna Ortega are the only other like prominent people in the movie.
Yeah, I saw.
And the only time the movie ever has anything of substance going on is when it's just those two and The Weeknd is not in the scene.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it is so stark, the contrast of skill between those as performers and The Weeknd as whatever the fuck he was trying to be.
Yes.
So,
An actor. It sounds like.
So, to your question, should he quit music and be an actor? Yes, because he's acting like a fool already.
I think he should just quit entertainment in general.
Our next question comes from, speaking of space, comes from Gideon. And his question, he messaged me this on Instagram.
Okay.
Do you believe in ghosts or aliens or Bigfoot? Elaborate.
Ooh.
That is the question.
Oh, he always comes up with some like really thinkers.
Yeah. Thinkers or stinkers.
Oh.
That's the segment for Gideon. Thinker or stinker.
Let's see. Is this a fuck, marry, kill question, or what was it?
I think it's like just what you believe in.
Oh.
Do you believe in ghosts, aliens, or Bigfoots?
It'd be a really
Does it
interesting...
have to be like mutually exclusive? Can I say I believe in like two and not the third one?
I want to do the fuck, marry, kill question.
I guess.
Hold on. All right, we'll
Well, if we're
elaborate on it,
doing
and then we
that,
could do.
then we have to- yeah.
Because that's a very interesting. They're both great. All right.
So are we assuming that the alien is like a little green humanoid thing? Kind of like in...
Assuming. What do you mean assuming? Aliens are whatever you want them to be, bro.
Well, that seems like a lot of room for leeway. Because if aliens are whatever I want, I could just say, yeah, they're the humanoid aliens from V, and I could just fuck a beautiful woman.
Hold on. Well, that's exactly my point.
Right.
What I'm saying is, let's do the do you believe in first, and then we'll go into that.
Oh, I thought we were getting into the dirty deed of it all.
Yeah, no, because that one, the other one's got some. Maybe they both do. I mean, elaborate.
So I will straight up just say, I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay.
I think that what most people perceive as ghosts are
here it
just
is.
illusions of the mind
Yeah,
playing tricks
grandeur.
on you.
Yeah.
I don't want to be mean about it because I know there's people out there who actually do believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
That's just my viewpoint on the subject. Bigfoot I believe in even less than ghosts because at least with ghosts there's like, there's a religious connotation to it. There's like this shared idea of experience, right?
Yeah.
Like we all went to the cemetery and something spooky happened. Like,
Yeah.
that could be understandable.
Or
Whereas
that
like
could be anxiety.
Bigfoot, in the world that we live in, for Bigfoot to exist seems impossible to me.
No.
Like the fact that he has ostensibly not been found
Have
ever.
you Google mapped the Canadian Rockies?
I have no reason to.
That's what I'm saying. There's no evidence of it.
Sure. Lack of evidence doesn't mean guaranteed of proof.
Didn't they
though.
just find a set of islands not too long ago that no one knew existed?
I don't know.
That's all I'm saying.
Epstein Island?
Whoa.
Not many people knew about that. And
Yeah.
now look at it.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to find Bigfoot, you're going to find something down there, something hairy and scary.
Hey, listen, you don't believe in Bigfoot, that's on you.
And then with aliens, I think if I were to believe in any of them, I would say aliens. Do I believe aliens have visited Earth? I don't know. I think that the universe
You got to
is
stamp
so...
it. It's a yes or no.
The universe is so huge, it has to be likely that there is life
Oh my
in
God,
another
you're
form
going
elsewhere.
education. Nerd.
This is what happens when
Wait,
you have
you-
a
so, like-
podcast with a sports boy. He calls you nerd every other sentence.
You give him like a quantum physics answer on it. Like, it's like,
Okay, you're forcing me to put a stamp on this. I'll say yes.
You
I
have
believe
to.
in aliens.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it is your
All
turn.
right. So let's.
your turn, Mr. Jockman.
We'll go into ghosts. String theory. What's string theory?
If you give a mouse a cheese, he will turn it into string.
Isn't it like layered?
No, string theory is that
parallel
like
universes, right?
Yeah, there's parallel universes of like the slightest consequence. So like there could be a universe that is almost exactly like ours, except like one strand of hair is different on my head.
Now, if those universes were to have something break through, right? If there was enough energy created to get through that universe, it could somehow.
You're calling me a nerd, and you're talking about fucking string theory right now.
Oh yeah, you could call me a nerd if you want. All
Nerd.
I'm saying, I'm dropping some heavy shit on you right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. It's real stinky.
You're calling it out too. So I'd have to believe in all that for ghosts. So I used to kind of believe in ghosts, and then my dad got into some really sci-fi ghost shows, and like that really turned me off from ghosts.
Yeah.
And I just went, you know what? I'm just not going to believe in ghosts.
What was it, like Ghost Adventures or something?
Whatever they're called. There's not just one.
You are right. There are thousands of them.
Like it was like, hey, like we monopolized the market, and then all of a sudden everyone got the technology and figured out like, oh, if you just get like an air conditioner going, we'll move the gauge in between that and it'll go down and up. Like,
yeah.
Awesome. I'm so happy that, like it was kind of fun at first. But I'm with you. Like, ghosts are it's manifestation, right? But it's also, if you believe in string theory, I could see in a world where, that could exist. Mm-hmm. Aliens for sure. Aliens for sure. I just saw a picture of, I think it was like multiple universes that got taken or projected. And I was like, okay, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. Okay, different galaxies maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, or galaxies, sorry. So
because we have one universe.
Right. My galaxies. Getting some, this is how you know I'm not a nerd.
Unless you want to get into string theory, in which there are multiple universes.
And multiple galaxies. Far, far away.
Mm-hmm.
So, aliens I definitely 100% believe in. I now with all the stuff with AI, and I don't know if we've been visited yet. Couldn't tell you, but I definitely think there are aliens.
Now, what about Bigfoot?
100%.
No elaboration. No like.
Really... I don't think the Michigan native and his son just say he saw him not too long ago.
I don't know. My fucking drunk ass cousin probably said he saw him like. I don't know, 3 weeks ago, hanging out at Wesco.
I believe in Bigfoot as much as I believe in snipe. So. And there's a snipe out there.
I think we're gonna move on to the second portion of this
fuck, Mary,
question.
kill?
Yes, fuck, Mary, kill.
Yeah, here we go.
So are we going back to the alien thing? Is it just like whatever we want, basically? Because like any aliens can be like whatever our idea of aliens are, fictional, like depicted in stories or like made up. Dude, or like what?
It's your alien.
It's
right.
If it's my alien, I'm picking alien because then I'm going with the aliens from V, where like they just look like people and I could fuck them. Like that's it.
So you're eliminating Bigfoot and ghosts out of there.
I guess yeah. No, I wouldn't eliminate them. I would kill Bigfoot.
Now that's where it gets into like
so if I kill,
you think you got a chance against Bigfoot?
Well, no. Well, okay, now we're going into the hypothetical of, like, could you fight Bigfoot? Which I feel like is a different question.
Are you just saying, like, here's a gun and you get to pop him?
Here's a gun, I get to shoot Bigfoot. The benefit of me killing Bigfoot is, like, hey, guys, I killed Bigfoot. Here he is. Do an autopsy.
You know what the disbenefit is?
What?
You're wrong in your belief he doesn't exist. So
this is a hypothetical scenario where he does exist, though.
Yeah. Or...
Don't say string theory. I'm going to hit you with this rubber band. I swear to Christ. So I'm killing Bigfoot.
Okay.
I am fucking the alien.
Okay.
The humanoid alien, whatever I want it to be. And I am marrying the ghost because I feel like that'd be kind of chill. Like you marry a ghost, you live with a ghost in your house.
You know,
you're married, so the ghost won't want to fuck with you, and you can just chill in your little haunted, spooky house. I think that'd be fun.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're both on the same page with killing Bigfoot. Cool. So then it proves I'm right. Yeah, then I think I'm fucking the ghost.
Yeah.
Just because I've seen Scary Movie 2. And I think that happens at that point in that film.
Sure, yes.
Right?
I've only seen Scary Movie 3.
You're in for a treat. One's not bad. And then marrying the alien.
Okay.
Okay. Because at that point, guess who's making buku bucks for selling the alien?
So you're marrying the alien, but you're also just like trafficking it at the same time.
Not trafficking. Not trafficking.
Is that too dirty of a term?
We would do social events, probably sign autographs.
Oh, like a circus freak.
Podcasts. If that's how you view it, I obviously married this thing, so like
What a term of endearment. I married this thing. So
well,
lovingly.
it's an alien. What do you call it? It's not it's an alien.
This being.
Yeah, sorry.
This living
sentient
entity.
being.
Why did you show me off in front of your friends?
What? Yeah, she would. No, I'm the one. Like it would. Well, the alien brings me back to that planet. Because they can't, you get into hey, who's moving where? Are you moving to Earth or am I moving to ZX9Y?
Is the alien, does he does the alien, does it just appear on Earth or does it have a spaceship? Does it have a mode of transportation? Because if you marry the alien, you could go around the galaxy.
It's got
you could see different parts of the universe.
Ford Deluxe DS. And we're traveling the countryside, you son of a bitch.
It's got an Aztec. It drives the same car that Walter White does.
It's a Prius.
Oh my god. I think that's a good place to end that question on. Our last question from Drew.
Okay.
Actually, no, this is the third question out of 4. So,
oh boy.
Although the last one is one that I think is hyper specific and is for a movie I haven't seen, so that one might be fast tracked. But
okay,
which big budget franchise movie releasing in July will make the most money? Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four.
Ooh,
that is a good question. I feel like the marketing for Superman has been very effective. I think it's one that has been so in the public conscious, it's made itself so aware of this is going to be what's up next on the entertainment spectrum. I think Fantastic Four is doing a similar thing. The only thing with that is that I think the sort of MCU fatigue of it all might hurt that movie a little bit. So I think I'm going to put my chips all in on Superman.
Okay.
I feel like the marketing for the Jurassic World movie has been really ineffectual. For a movie that comes out in a month, it's a movie that I have little to no interest in, and I feel like a lot of people have a similar attitude towards it.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Okay. I am also going to go with not Jurassic World, simply because the last 3 were flops, and this feels like
Dominion did make $1 billion still, though.
Come on.
I mean, I don't want to say that because Dominion was a suck-ass movie, but I'm pretty sure it broke $1 billion still. I mean, if I'm wrong, I will chew on this rubber band. I'm not going to eat it because that would be woefully unhealthy. We're both rushing to see.
Yeah, $1 billion.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go with Jurassic Park.
Shit.
Yeah, you should have said that.
No.
That movie sucked and it got $1 billion. Are you kidding me?
People still went and saw it in droves.
They're going to go see this one too.
Post-pandemic.
Dude, they are going to go see this one too. You want to know why?
Because the last one made $1 billion.
The marketing of this has been very effective. It's been it hasn't, but they've done so much of putting this out there. And if this is PG-13, it's once again, you got suckers like me that will probably see it. You're going to have all the new audiences that are going to go see it. And then if people did like it, apparently it's Twilight. Hey, all you have to do is attach the name to it. Guaranteed it's making $500 million.
Big dinosaur eat people and chomp boats or whatever.
If I hadn't known that, I probably would have went, I guess, I was Superman, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
The bigger question is, you say Marvel fatigue, or how big is their fan base, right? I don't know if Thunderbolts and the new Captain America are still not capturing, more and more people are phasing out, waiting for it to come streaming. I think the issue with Superman's going to be DC attached to it. James Gunn, I think, is more well known against movie goers, but general audiences.
My parents aren't going to know who the fuck James Gunn is.
And then they're going to be I don't know if I want to see a Superman film because Superman hasn't been relevant in 20
and why
years.
would I go see this DC movie when the last few were total dog shit?
Yeah, your parents are saying that's going to be your kind of comic book fans.
Right.
Because I've heard people I've been the one, like, we'll talk about it. It's like, I don't know about that trailer. It looks kind of dumb with the dog. And it's like, well, Gunn directed it. And it's like, well, who's that? And then, we'll wait and see.
I like how zany it looks. It looks very interesting and kind of like stylistic. It reminds me a lot of what I liked about the Guardians movies. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that, and then attaching a little bit of what's the Rainn Wilson movie?
Super.
Yeah. Like, I think it's gonna have a little bit of that zaniness around it.
Super's it's hard to completely remove the DNA of that from James Gunn.
That's what I'm saying. And if you're gonna make a successful film, I mean, you got to go kind of Guardians route. But this doesn't have 4 characters, Marvel, and he's gonna. So I'm hoping that I'm most excited out of those 3 for Superman.
Yeah.
If I'm guessing right now, after hearing the Minion thing, it's like Jurassic Park without a doubt.
I still want to say Superman because that's the one I want to be on top compared to those other 3. I mean, hand-holding club with Fantastic Four. If both of those movies do pretty well, I'll be fine. Like, they both seem interesting and worth going to check out.
Yeah, yes.
Jurassic World can bury itself in my driveway.
Yes.
So this last question I think is interesting. I might save it for either next episode or like maybe just another time.
Because we're running. Oh, man.
We are. Last bit of business.
Yes.
For episode 98 coming up, I get to make a recommendation.
Yes.
So I want to throw this out there.
Okay.
28 years later.
Yeah. Coming
out.
Yeah.
How would you feel about talking about that along with the other 2 movies?
Fine.
You're fine with it? It wouldn't be.
I just told you I wanted to see all 3. I mean, I gotta watch it.
It wouldn't be too big of a bill to fulfill.
No, I think that if we can kind of guide, railway how long we talk about them.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. No questions, no like bit of news, unless it's like really important.
But the second one too, I don't know how much is on. Like,
the first 2 movies are pretty quick because like they're like hour 30. Hour 40, right?
Yeah, no, it's not the length. It's just kind of talking about it. I know both of them are supposed to represent or have a little bit of a metaphor around them. Mm-hmm. The second one, like, I don't remember. The second one I was most geeked about because I was like, oh, zombie action film. Right. So I don't, to me, from my memory of it, was a very bland action movie where the first one, I think there's a little bit more to chomp off.
Right. Cool. So if you're fine with that, I think I want to recommend 28 Days Later.
Yep.
28 Weeks Later.
Yep.
And the new movie coming out 28 years later.
It'll be fun. It'll be a good one.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled for any of those 3 movies,
yes,
be sure to check them out before episode 98. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're also on various social media platforms on YouTube Community, Facebook, and Instagram. Been more active in posting on those avenues to stay engaged with you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and give us some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have anything you want to let us know about, be sure to message us on any of those platforms. We can either touch on it on the show, or I can respond to you personally, as long as you don't insult me or my face or Mac's face. Honestly,
that's all right.
No,
take your best shot.
No, feel better about yourself. Thank you to Gideon for doing our music. Thank you to Lauren for doing our artwork. You can find their pages in the description below. McLean, do you have anything you want to kick off with? Karate kick off with? It's very sweaty, but I tried my best.
Yeah, no, you're good. It might good to kind of.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh man, now I'm on the spot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to
Johnny on the spot.
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.